I'll call the June 24th, 2008 regular meeting of the Newport Beach City Council to order. May we have the roll call, please?
The record will reflect that all council members are present.
Okay, do we have a closed session report from the city attorney?
I apologize. I apologize. If you hold off, I'll make it in a second. I'm trying to find my agenda sheet. The only thing I have to report out was the council approved amicus, and what I don't have off the top of my head was the name of the case.
Here, Ron, is it in the...
It's in the, yeah. Yes, the council approved to sign on as amicus in a case called Qualified Patients Association versus the City of Anaheim.
Okay.
Should we say what side we're on?
The City of Anaheim side.
Is that good enough?
Okay, would you all please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance led by Councilman Curry with the invocation by Mr. Frank Carpenter.
Please join me in the pledge to our flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Would you please join me in an invocation? Dear God, we humbly thank you for this beautiful city where we have the privilege of living so near the shining sea. We thank you for these leaders who are the stewards of this place. Give them wisdom as they guide us, tempered with kindness and grace. We ask your blessing on this meeting and the business we must do. Let us conduct ourselves this night in a way which honors you. May your blessing also rest upon this fair city by the shore. Grant that it may thrive and prosper in our care and evermore. Amen.
Thank you, Mr. Carpenter. Our first presentation tonight is the introduction of the exchange students who are going to be traveling to Okazaki, Japan, and I understand Mr. Kent Moore is here to make those introductions.
Mr. Mayor and members of the City Council, konbanwa, which means good evening to you all. I am Kent Moore, Chairman of the Okazaki Committee for the Newport Beach Sister City Association. And with me tonight is our President, Ms. Sherry Penny Myers. Also with me tonight are this year's exchange students and chaperones, or ambassadors as we call them these days. They're scheduled to travel to Okazaki on July 7th, and they'll return on the 17th of July. Their activities will include homestays with their host families, school visits, tours, and sightseeing. Of course, one of the highlights of their trip will be a visit to the Nagoya Sumo Tournament, where they will see Newport Beach Sumo champion Koto Mitsuki in action. Their trip will end at the ancient capital of Kyoto during the traditional Gion Festival, which will be a once-in-a-lifetime experience. As always, we very much appreciate the wonderful assistance the City of Newport continues to give us. And now, the students and chaperones will introduce themselves to you and the city. With the exception of student Michael Kesey, who was unavoidably detained tonight. He is aged 14 years old. He is at Corona Del Mar High School in the 9th grade. He wanted me to tell you all tonight that he thinks this will be the best summer vacation ever. So the students are, this year, are, in addition to Michael Kesey, Mackenzie Dalton, Paisley Miller, Drew Mulcair, Zachary Solemn, and Sidney Groves, and their chaperones are Mr. and Mrs. Jim Blankenship. So thank you all for having us tonight, and I'm going to start having the students and chaperones come up and say a few words, starting with Zach.
Hello, my name is Zachary Salam. I'm 13 years old, and I'm a freshman at CDM High School, and I can't wait till July 7th. Hello, I'm Drew Mulcair, and I'm 14 years old, and I'm a freshman at CDM also, and I'm feeling very excited and anxious to meet my host family in Okazaki. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Mackenzie Dalton. I go to Corona Del Mar High School. I'm a freshman. I'm 14 years old. And thank you so much for this opportunity to be an exchange student in Okazaki.
Hello, I'm Sydney Groves. I'm 14. I attend Newport Harbor as a freshman, and I'm really looking forward to visiting Okazaki.
Hi, I'm Paisley Muller. I'm 14. I'm a freshman at Newport Harbor. Thank you for supporting the exchange program.
Hi, my name is Gwen Blankenship, and I have the honor and privilege of teaching life science at Ensign Intermediate. And I just wanted to thank you for your support. And even though I don't live in Newport Beach, I love this city because I have the opportunity to teach the students that live here. And those two girls were my former students. But I'm really looking forward to this opportunity. Thank you.
And I'm Jim Blankenship, and I had the good fortune to meet this lady about 31 years ago on a softball field. And we got married, and as a teacher, she was chosen to be one of the chaperones for this trip, and I'm really looking forward to it. Very excited, and want to thank all of you for the support for this program. And it's a great bunch of kids that we've gotten to know real well, and so thank you very much.
I'd just like to say that we've had such tremendous support from Mr. and Mrs. Blankenship. He's done so much video work and computer work for us, and of course, she's taught the students a special Japanese song that they've almost memorized, which they'll give when they're in Okazaki. So again,
we're not going to hear it tonight, Ken?
No, not tonight. Still polishing it up a little bit.
Okay.
But wait,
Maybe when you come back and tell us how you did.
And again, thank you all so very much for your support over the years. And we'll give them a little hand.
Well, thank you for the presentation, Kent, and I'm sure these young men and women will do our city proud in representing us over there. Thank you very much for coming this evening.
Thank you.
Wait a minute. We're going to see if we can get a picture. Mr. Blankenship.
Our second presentation this evening, which is not listed on the agenda, is a recognition of the Memorial Committee for the 1st Marine 1st Battalion Memorial. It's my pleasure and honor to participate in awarding certificates of appreciation to the members of the committee. I would like to award a certificate to Councilman Keith Curry, who was chairman of the committee, and he in turn will go ahead and award certificates to members of the committee that are here this evening. And what I'd like to do is just read what is on the certificate of appreciation. And this is certificate of appreciation of the city of Newport Beach, and it says, "This is to certify that the Honorable Keith D. Curry, chairman, has rendered valuable and distinguished service to the city of Newport Beach for the 1st Marine 1st Battalion Memorial Committee July 11th, 2006 to June 24th, 2008. And this certificate is issued in recognition of the City Council on behalf of the citizens of Newport Beach, dated this 24th day of June 2008. Edward D. Selich, Mayor. I would like to personally thank Councilman Curry for all of his hard work on this committee. It certainly is a inspirational tribute to our Marines as it sits up on the bluff in Castaways Park overlooking the bay and the city. And I think it will be an inspiration to people for generations to come. So, Councilman Curry, thank you very much for all your service and the hard work you put into this project.
Thank you, Mayor Selich and colleagues, and ladies and gentlemen. For the past 2 years, it has been my honor to serve with an exceptional group of gentlemen who have been the 1-1 Memorial Committee. Veterans all, they were totally committed to this project. They assisted selflessly in raising the funds, in looking at the design, in coordinating with the Marines, in working with the site, in coordinating with the neighbors, and always provided a human and veterans perspective to what we were doing. And I think when you go up to Castaways and see what is a very stunning memorial, the fruits of their labor are fully evident. Let me ask them to come up here and stand, and then we'll take a picture. First, representing the Arts Commission, Gil Lasky. And second, representing the American Legion, Steve Spriggs. George Tepich, who has been a tireless veteran and supporter of the project. And also with us today, the chairman of the 1-1 Adoption Committee, Dick Kurth. I should note that not able to be with us today are General John Rhodes and Bill Garrett from PB&R, along with an early member of the committee, Judge Steve Bromberg, who also contributed greatly to the development of the memorial. Thank you very much.
Okay, Madam Clerk.
Notice to the public. The city provides a yellow sign-in card to assist in the preparation of the minutes. The completion of the card is not required in order to address the council. Speakers must limit comments to 5 minutes on agenda items. The council has the discretion to extend or shorten the time limit on agenda or non-agenda items. As a courtesy, please turn cell phones and pagers off or set them in the silent mode. Now is the time for city council announcements or matters which council members would like placed on a future agenda for discussion, action, or report.
Okay, Councilmember Gardner.
I know there's been a lot of questions about the concession at Big Corona, which has been down for over a year, and I'm pleased to announce that it's now open, the Fuji Grill, and it's open in the morning, which is a new twist, so you can, if you're walking on Ocean Boulevard, you can go down and get a cup of coffee. And it looks very nice. We've got tables and umbrellas, so it's quite a visual treat as well.
Councilman Curry.
It was my honor to represent the city at 2 events in the past week. First, this morning at the swearing-in of Sandra Hutchins, who is our new Orange County Sheriff. I think Sandra is an eminently qualified candidate, and I think she's going to do a great job as sheriff, and certainly that's an important position for all of us, even here in Newport Beach. And then last week at the Mayor's Summit in Anaheim with Kirk Pringle, with their special guest Steve Goldsmith, the former mayor of Indianapolis, talking about new strategies as governments move into the provision of enhancing value for citizens and residents. And it's interesting to note that both Anaheim and Brea are following up and doing a citizen satisfaction survey, and in the case of Anaheim with J.D. Power and Associates, and Brea as well, and moving then on into benchmarking as cities all across Orange County strive, as we are doing, to improve and provide better services.
Councilman Webb? Councilman Henn?
I do have an announcement. As many of us are aware, April was National Autism Awareness Month. That's an issue that's of special importance to me. I have a 5-year-old grandson with autism. He is in Harper School in Newport Mesa School District here in a preschool program that is composed of a class of mostly children with high-functioning autism, but also regular children, and in order to teach them skills and help them understand social skills and whatnot, and prepare them to go on to regular mainstream classes. Not very long ago, there were 3 of these classes in Newport Mesa. Today, there are 11. And we are so thankful for the teachers that teach his class, because they're very dedicated. And with the help of an individual named Kathy Murphy, these teachers have helped to organize what they call something called the High Five Sports League, which is a little sports league of the children in these classes. And they started off with t-ball and soccer, and they finished up with a track and field competition that was modeled on the Olympics, and it was held at Estancia High School just a couple of weekends ago. My daughter, Kirsten, is very involved with the High Five Sports League, and there's been contact with Costa Mesa's Parks and Recreation Department. And I had a conversation with our city manager, Homer Blutow, talking about this and asking if our Parks and Recreation had any program for children like this, and if they'd be interested in helping out. And to their great and good credit, Homer and Wes Morgan and Sean Levin and others, they jumped right on that idea. And they provided extra support, tents and equipment for this track and field Olympic competition for the High Five Sports League a couple of weeks ago at Estancia High School. It was a fabulous event. There were tears everywhere from parents who never thought they'd have a chance to see their child participate in sports events, including tears from my family. And so on behalf of my family, my grandson, my daughter and her husband and my wife, and all of the children and their parents and relatives that participated in this and that benefited from the purely voluntary and very constructive response and help from the City of Newport Beach Parks and Recreation, for all of that, my deep, deep felt thanks. And I'm very hopeful that at some point we'll be able to figure out how to matriculate this into perhaps some sort of an ongoing Parks and Rec benefit, because we know there are many more kids than just in these 11 classes, many more coming up every day. And so Homer and Wes and Sean, if you're here, thanks.
Councilman Rosansky?
Yeah, just quickly, 2 events that I attended. The first was actually attended by several of the other council members, including the mayor, and I hope I'm not usurping him here. Am I?
Go ahead.
What the
Always
hell?
usurp.
I was a mayor before he was. But he asked me first. The Balboa Bay Club recently had their opening ceremonies and awarded some scholarships to kids in our community. And I was really astounded by the amount of the scholarships. 2 students won $20,000 college scholarships, and 2 others won $5,000 scholarships, and I think 4 others that were in the contention each won $1,000. So I want to thank the folks over there at the Balboa Bay Club, and what's the name of that group? The 1221 Club. 1221 Club is a women's club over at the Balboa Bay Club that has awarded these scholarships for a number of years now, And I don't know anywhere or any group that awards a $20,000 scholarship to a student going into college. Some of them are going to UC schools, some of them are, one I think was USC, but all fine students, and I wish them all well, as I'm sure all of us do up here on the dais. The other event I attended was, on a little bit of more of a lighter note, was the Irrelevant Week celebration that kicked off yesterday with crowning Mr. Irrelevant, the last pick in the NHL draft. And I want to thank Paul Salata once again for putting on this event, along with, I believe, his daughter, who's actively involved these days, and all the other folks that were there. I know the Commodores from the Chamber supported the event and were out there in force, and it was just a truly irreverent event, as it always is, and irrelevant. So with that, I will turn it back to the mayor.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem Daigle.
No announcements.
Councilman Webb, you had something that you forgot.
I was approached by, or queried by residents of Bayshores concerning the status of the Belmari development, and if there was anything the city could do to improve the appearance, like maybe tear the buildings down. But I was wondering if I could get a report later on sometime about what we might be able to do to correct what has become a real eyesore within the community.
Okay, thank you. I do have a couple of things that I'd like to announce. Councilman Rosansky did steal my thunder on the Balboa Bay Club season opening, and I just have to reemphasize what he said. I thought I was going to a season opening, but to see the generosity of the members of the Bay Club to award these scholarships to these young people in our community was truly astounding. And my hat's off and congratulations to members of the Balboa Bay Club who support such a worthwhile program. It certainly was heartwarming to see these young people get up and be so thankful to receive these scholarships. I recently had two daughters finish college, so I know how expensive it is to go to college. So to see the generosity of the Bay Club was most heartwarming. Also, on June the 14th, I attended the annual dinner of the Someone Cares Soup Kitchen, where I read proclamations from the city to actually four notable people in Newport Beach, Evelyn and John Hart, who have been supporters of the Someone Cares Soup Kitchen for many, many years, and to Bill Hamilton and his wife, who also have been supporters of the Someone Cares Soup Kitchen for many years and have provided much support to that group. And again, it was heartwarming to see all those people there that give so much of their time to helping those that are less fortunate than most of us are in the Newport Beach, Costa Mesa area. Madam Clerk.
All matters listed under consent calendar, items 1 through 18, are considered by the council to be routine and will all be enacted by one motion in the form listed below. The city council members have received detailed staff reports on each of the items recommending an action. There will be no separate discussion of these items prior to the time the council votes on the motion unless members of the council, staff, or the public request specific items to be discussed and or removed from the consent calendar for separate action. Members of the public who wish to discuss a consent calendar item should come forward to the lectern upon invitation by the mayor, state their name and item number. If the optional sign-in card has been completed, it should be placed in the box provided at the podium.
Okay, Councilman Henn.
Nothing.
Councilman Rosansky.
None, thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Daigle.
After conferring with the mayor, we're going to pull off agenda number 7.
Okay, so that's just to remove it completely from consideration. Councilmember Gardner?
Nothing.
Councilman Curry?
No items to pull.
Councilman Webb?
I'm going to break the log jam here and pull number 17.
Okay. Staff, any items to pull?
None, Your Honor.
Okay. Does anyone from the public have an item they wish to pull from the consent calendar? Okay. Seeing none, I'll bring it back for motion.
Mr. Mayor, make a motion to approve items 1 to 18. We're going to be pulling item 17 and then pulling off agenda number 7.
Second.
Okay. Please vote. There we go.
Motion carries.
Okay, so the only item pulled is item number 17, and this is the McFadden Square Centennial Legacy Project Sculpture, approval of casting, installation, and final payment. Councilman Webb?
Yes. The reason why I pulled this is I was fortunate enough to, I believe it was last Thursday, be able to be down at McFadden Square and observe the arrival and mounting of the sculpture in McFadden Square. And I just want to let everybody know that we're going to have an opening ceremony and dedication of that on July 21st at 9:30 a.m., so put that on your calendars. It is an absolutely outstanding and gorgeous sculpture. It was beyond my expectations. I noticed that we have several people here that were very instrumental. Bernie Falstad led the fundraising efforts and did an absolutely outstanding job of that. And Kerwin Rockefeller, the chairman of our Arts Commission, was the one that helped out in making sure that we had an excellent artist on board and setting some of the parameters. I guess there's one question that I had is that has anybody on either the committee or staff had an opportunity to really look seriously at the entire sculpture to make sure that it meets our expectations?
Good evening, members of the council and Mr. Mayor. First of all, I would like to say that I, too, was able to get down.
Kerwin, state your name for
I'm
the
sorry,
record.
I'm Kerwin Rockefeller, chairman of the Newport Beach Arts Commission, and I was able to get down to the McFadden Square location on Monday morning. Jenna Barbier met me down there, and we were able to take a look at it. And, you know, I think after 3.5 years of many people being involved in this process, I have to say that from the Arts Commission's perspective, we're very happy. We're very thrilled. It is a very sophisticated and elegant, we think it's a very timeless piece of sculpture, and the entire urban beautification project, we're very, very pleased with that.
Okay, I guess my question is, do you feel satisfied with the work of the artist, and is everything 100% complete to where we should give him 100%
You know, there
of
is
his?
one very small item that we would like to address there, and actually I've been in contact with the artist, Hank Kaminsky, yesterday and today, and there was one line of text that we have a question about, and actually, since he can't be here, he's in Arkansas, he wanted me to convey to you all that he is completely dedicated to making sure that City Council and the Arts Commission are 100% satisfied, and that he's agreed to be working with us in actually making one adjustment on the sculpture there. Been in touch with him. We're looking at whether he could come out from Arkansas. Maybe one of his sculpture assistants might come out there. We've talked about the item in question and what we might do. We have a cost analysis of that. And so, again, he said, please assure City Council and everyone that we will take care of just that one question that we had.
Mr. City Attorney, is this something that we should go ahead right now and release the whole amount, or should we hold a small amount back to make sure that's complied with?
I would recommend withholding some small amount to make sure that that's complied with. I'm sure that the dedication is appropriate, would be followed through on, but I think it'd be easier for the city to know that we'd withheld a little bit of a small amount of funds to.
Would, say, 10% or 5%, let's say, $2,000 be sufficient, or
10%.
Is that, what is the estimates involved?
That's fine, yeah. The estimate is $1,000 to do just a little bit of some extra work there. If we held 10% back, that's $4,000 just to give us a cushion, just to be on the safe side, or 5%, that's fine too.
Okay, then I would like to thank you, Kerwin.
And then we could make that would be relayed, the release would be approved after, of the remaining 10% as soon as that issue has been resolved.
That's good.
And, excuse me, on that point, I would be happy if the sufficiency of whatever work was done was approved by the Arts Commission. That would be good enough for me to release the money.
If I might also take one real quick minute of your time here today, I wanted to say a couple of thank yous. This has been a 3.5-year-long project. We've learned a lot. A lot of people have been involved in this. It certainly has been a team effort by many people being involved. But first of all, on behalf of the Arts Commission, I'd like to extend our thank you and appreciation to City Council for all of your support, for your leadership, for your guidance in this process. Also a thank you to city staff, executive staff of the city, particularly the city public works crew who have done a fantastic job in actually working on the site. Hank Kaminsky, again, the artist from Arkansas, has done a really wonderful job. We've been in very close contact with him during the entire process. He certainly is a professional, and he's acted that way. A thank you to Peridian International for their vision, which has been spectacular. We feel that the urban beautification project is something that the city and the community will be proud of for many years to come. A special thanks to Bernie Savalstad for our fundraising chair, and most importantly to the donors of Newport Beach, the members of our family, of our community, who have helped us reach our goal of $500,000 over the past 3.5 years to make this a reality. And just to reiterate, everybody is welcome, city council members, members of the community, to the official unveiling on Monday, July 21st at 9:30 a.m. Thank you again for your support.
Kerwin, I just have one question.
I'm sorry, yes.
I just have one question. Is the city council going to have to wear silly hats at that?
Yeah, you should. That's okay.
Only if we hold it on St. Patrick's Day.
Okay.
Thank you again.
Thank you.
I would add one more vote of thanks, and that's to Jana Barbier, who has been the principal staff resource all along with this and has been a real mainstay in making this all happen.
Does anyone else want to address the council on this issue? Okay, seeing no one, I'll bring it back. Councilor
Mayor,
Webb?
I'd like to move to approve the recommended action, except authorizing $36,000 for immediate payment and the remaining $4,000 be remitted at the time the Arts Commission approves the sculpture.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Seeing none, please vote.
Motion carries.
Okay, next item is oral reports from City Council on committee activities. Councilwoman Gardner?
Nothing?
Councilman Curry?
Nothing?
Councilman Webb?
Nothing?
Councilman Henn?
I'm sorry, the question?
Oral reports on committee activities.
I was whispering in class with Councilmember Rosansky.
Yes, we were.
I have no oral reports.
Councilman Rosansky?
Neither do I. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Daigle?
Yes, the Citizens Aviation Committee is going to be meeting on June 30th, and we're going to be looking at a study on departure patterns. Sounds pretty technical, but we have a consultant, I think, that can kind of break it down for us. And then in an effort to expand the city's information on this, we are going to be updating our website, and we also are in the process of doing some community outreach as well. So want to let you know the city is expanding its efforts in terms of the airport and staying on top of that and letting you know what we're doing there. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. And I have none. Okay, next item is public hearings. I've consulted the city attorney, and she has informed me that we can do items 19 through 22, which are the Business Improvement District. Public hearings is one hearing, and although that there will be separate motions required, so we have to do 4 separate motions after one hearing for each of the bids. And is there any objection to doing that from council? Seeing none, that's the way we'll handle it. So we're going to do items 19, 20, 21, and 22, which are the public hearings for the Corona Del Mar Business Improvement District, the Balboa Village Business Improvement District, the Marine Avenue Business Improvement District, and the Restaurant Association Business Improvement District. This is a renewal, and we're going to conduct a public hearing and adopt a resolution for the renewal and levy of the business improvement districts for each of these areas for the fiscal year 2008-2009. Is there any additional information from staff?
Not unless you want a staff report.
Okay. I don't see any need for that from anyone up here.
Mr. Mayor, I think we should just confirm, though, that since the staff report was prepared, we have not received any protests to any of them.
Okay. Can we get that confirmation on the record? That there
I
have
thought
been
that was it.
You just did. Okay, that was it. Okay. Okay, you're right. You're right. Okay. So with that, we have no protest on each of these. I'll open the public hearings on items 19, 20, 21, and 22. Anyone wishing to speak, please step forward.
Hello. I'm Sherry Drury, president of the Newport Beach Restaurant Association. A number of restaurateurs who could not be here right now because they are working, I'm here to represent them this evening. On behalf of the Newport Beach Restaurant Association, the Board of Directors would like to sincerely thank the City of Newport Beach for its ongoing support and investment in the Restaurant Association bid. In 2007, the restaurant industry in Newport Beach generated for close to 19% of all sales tax revenue collected into the city's general fund. Since the NBRA's inception in 1996, the restaurant industry's sales tax revenue has grown 174%, from approximately $2.7 million to $4.8 million. The hospitality industry is also the largest industry for employment in the city of Newport Beach. Restaurant Association programming provides specific benefit to individual restaurants, generates tax revenue back to the city, and serves the community as a resource, providing dining information. Our Board of Directors work diligently to position Newport Beach as Southern California's premier dining destination. Through strategic marketing campaigns which brand the destination, generate tangible results, increase revenue, and provide opportunity to leverage added value to the NBRA budget and city investment. At this time, I would like to introduce Peggy Fort from California Marketing Concepts, who will note some of the relevant statistics worthy of taking note.
Thank you, Sherry. And good evening, members of council and city staff. In 07-08, the Restaurant Association billed approximately $69,000 in assessment dues and received approximately $32,000 in bid matching funds. As Sherry mentioned, since 1996, although the cost of living and doing business has sharply increased, restaurant industry sales tax revenue generation is also up 174%, but our bid contribution has remained relatively unchanged. A top budget priority for the Restaurant Association to stay competitive as marketing and operational costs continue to increase is expansion of the marketing and media plan through partnership marketing opportunities. In 07-08, the NBRA negotiated over $75,000 worth of in-kind media and ad placements and leveraged our advertising budget by over 300%. Dining guide distribution, website, and central dining reservation systems also saw substantial increases, upwards of 30% in 07-08 as well. The NBRA working budget was under $100,000 last year, but the actual value of the comprehensive marketing and publicity campaign is close to $500,000. Overall, the number of impressions the comprehensive marketing and publicity campaign generates is over 50 million, 10 million of which are from public relations and media, and 40 million which are marketing and media advertising. And those numbers are generated through historical data, ad equivalency reports, specific media reach information, and advertising outlets. In 07-08, again, those were some of our accomplishments, but a quick overview of where we're going in 09. We look to try to allocate additional funds towards new marketing collateral development, a green practices brochure, and a new established informational brochure, a website refresh, and a strategic word optimization plan, as well as additional resources for cooperative marketing programs to continue to further leverage the value of our marketing campaign for the Restaurant Association.
Given the current economic condition, expansion of the NBRA comprehensive marketing and publicity campaign and programming is more crucial to us than ever. Additionally, in response to the success of Restaurant Week, the Board of Directors is proposing 2 campaigns in 2009 as its integral part of the fiscal year 2008-2009 marketing plan of work.
It's just important to note that Restaurant Week directly increased restaurant sales revenues, paid the city back on its investment, leveraged the Restaurant Association marketing budget, provided an incentive to the dining community, enhanced the quality of life for our residents as well as visitors, and supported local charity. Approximately $53,000 of actual sales tax revenue was brought back into the city's general fund through Restaurant Week, with over 190,000 participants approximately taking place in the citywide culinary celebration. Close to 70 restaurants participated in 08, and approximately $5,300,000 of added revenue was brought back into the restaurant industry. As you all know, special three-course fixed-price menus were prepared, which averaged 25 to 60% off discount from the regular value. The Restaurant Week media partnerships and mutually beneficial hospitality partnerships were very important, and $245,000 worth of media sponsorships were also secured as part of Restaurant Week in 07-08, as well as $20,000 worth of cash sponsorships. Just as a result...
Peggy, your time has expired.
Thank you.
Got wrapped up. Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, next speaker.
Thank you. My name is Wendy Boyd. I'm with the American Express Company, and been with the company for over 25 years, and a resident of our great community of Newport Beach for 20 years. And I'm here just to support the Restaurant Association and the Restaurant Week. American Express is a partner in supporting communication and supporting the restaurants during this wonderful event. We've been a partner since the beginning in 07 and 08, and wanted to just share some of the results as well. But Peggy has been clearly sharing those with you as well too. But with an American Express, we're very pleased with the support and with the results that have taken place. Just in this last year's campaign, the first year was a great initial kickoff with our partnership with the CVB, and we have brought on over $1 million in sales as well. This is just with the American Express card members. So, and with the incremental spend of over $100,000. So it was really a great second-year effort, especially in the in-market. We also did an out-of-market piece that went to 40,000 card members. So it's getting a real reach within the residents as well as out-of-market. And we're really pleased with the outcome of this year, and see, typically in a campaign it takes, we find, about 3 to 5 years to really have a foothold on the campaign. It's already succeeded that in its second year. So we're pleased as a company to share in that and to continue on with our partnership with the CVB as well. And it truly is a really wonderful event. American Express has sponsored, gosh, it's over 12, almost 15 different restaurant weeks throughout the country. And we're a small city compared to the ones that we've executed throughout the country, namely in LA and San Diego and Boston and Miami are some of the larger ones that have been very successful. They've added on that second week, and you'll find that more investments will come by expanding more of a audience and share of marketing by adding those extra weeks as well too. So that would be something I would highly recommend. It's been successful in other markets, and adding possibly another week onto the existing time too, so maybe a 2-week or separating those 2 weeks throughout the year during the time when restaurants really need that extra support as well too. So it's very important that from a resident, the experience that Restaurant Week provides, and to have the council support that, and our community to be behind it as well to even grow it even further, so that other partnerships can come in and find it additionally valuable as well too. I appreciate any support that the council can provide with the community, and thank you very much for the time.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor?
There's a question.
No,
Please.
I don't have a question.
Oh,
I
no
have a question for
I'm
you.
sorry.
Sure.
No, there's no question, sorry.
I'm wondering if, this isn't what, we're not talking about Restaurant Week right now, and I'm wondering if they might want to hold their comments until we get to when we do talk about.
Well, we are going to talk about it under the budget, so you might
Right.
want to hold off on Restaurant Week. This is the bid renewal hearing. Good point.
Is it appropriate for me to talk?
It is. State your name.
Jim Walker, the Bungalow Restaurant, Mr. Mayor, and members of the City Council. Obviously, I was hoping to be here on another matter, but since I'm here for Restaurant Week, a couple of issues I just want to bring up.
Well,
and,
Jim, if you're going to talk about Restaurant Week, do you want to wait till it comes up in the budget?
No, I'm not going to talk about Restaurant Week.
Okay.
I'm really going to talk about the Restaurant Association and the fact that although the restaurants do not generate most of the sales tax to the city, we are the largest employer within the city of Newport Beach. And the other thing that I would want to really express, I've been a member and sat on the board of the Restaurant Association Newport Beach for approximately 9 years. And as you well know, we're primarily a marketing organization. We're not political. We're not really in line with the California Restaurant Association. We're more of strictly a Newport Beach Restaurant Association. The people that sit on the board, the people that participate, unfortunately, are in the minority. We have approximately 400 restaurants in Newport Beach. But I would want to, I guess, express that we do, I think, a very good job of managing and overseeing the monies that we do receive from the city. Currently, I was looking at the numbers, and for approximately a $500,000 value in marketing, we spend 12% in creating that value. We have someone like California Marketing that oversees that for us. We're restaurant operators. We're not really good marketers. And so if we were in charge of the marketing, I doubt that we would get that kind of exposure for that kind of a return. And so consequently, I guess my message to you is whatever monies we do receive from you, I believe that they are well spent, I believe they're well managed, and I believe that we don't squander them. I think that they're executed extremely well. And hopefully that will continue, and I would appreciate your consideration for what we're asking. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else want to speak on items 19, 20, 21, or 22?
Good evening, Council and City. My name is Chris Sechaney, General Manager of the Five Crowns Restaurant at the south tip of Newport Beach, of course. And I just want to thank you for your support. You know, the proposal, the monies that you put forth for the marketing efforts in general, not just specific to Restaurant Week, hopefully come back to the city, add vibrancy, add a lot of value and quality of life to people. So I want to thank you for your support and your consideration. Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Seeing no one, I'll close the hearing and bring it back to council for discussion or motions.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion.
Okay, remember, we have to do a separate one for each district.
Right. I'll make a motion to adopt staff's recommendation on item number 19. Is that the first one? 19.
Second.
Okay, any discussion?
That's the CDM business districts.
Vote.
Motion carries.
Okay, do you want to keep on a roll there,
Same
Councilman
motion.
Ozansky?
Yes, I will, sure. Same motion on the staff's recommendation on item number 20.
Okay, that's Balboa Village.
Second.
Okay, please vote.
With Councilmember Webb abstaining,
No.
that should be a yes?
My
Okay.
light won't light up.
Okay, let's try that again.
Oh, it went out again.
Okay, let's try that again.
Okay, there we go. Is that called a do-over?
Motion carries.
Do-over. Okay.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to adopt staff's recommendation on item number 21.
Okay, that's the Marine Avenue Business Improvement
Mayor,
District.
My vote in favor of this does not include the approval of their budget.
Mr.
Marine Avenue, excuse me.
Okay, please vote.
Don, don't be difficult.
Motion carries.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to adopt staff's recommendation on item number 22 with regard to the Newport Beach Restaurant Association Business Improvement District.
Second.
Okay,
Same comment.
please vote.
Motion carries.
Okay, all four business improvement districts have been renewed for fiscal year 2008-2009. Okay, our next hearing is on the Cost Recovery Ordinance, Chapter 3.36. It's a fee resolution and master fee schedule. Mr. City Manager?
Glenn Everode is going to provide the staff report on this item.
While we're waiting, I just want to thank staff for printing on both sides of the paper. Oh, we get so many reports, and this is nice, and we're using half as much paper.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. We set up this PowerPoint presentation. I'll bring to Council and the public's attention that we've made copies of the PowerPoint presentation that we're demonstrating tonight for Council and the members of the public. There's a copy of it in the notebook out back in the lobby. As Council's aware, this year we have a priority to, one of the 12 Council priorities is to develop a process to regularly review and update the city's fees. This project is in satisfaction of that particular priority. Just a little chronology about where we've been with this. The study started in December of 2006. Finance committees reviewed this study 3 times, as recently as April of this year. We've been with stakeholders at Finance Committee's direction, speaking with the PB&R Budget Committee, the Chamber of Commerce, the Building Industry Association, PB&R Commission, Conference and Visitors Bureau, the Restaurant Association. The consulting firm, PRM, did a study session presentation of the study in April, and then on May 13th, we presented again to City Council on this subject. This evening, what we're doing is introducing amendments to Chapter 3.36, the Cost Recovery Ordinance. That ordinance, first established in 1996, provides that fees will be set by resolution, and the Council adopts in this ordinance the percentage of recovery for specified services that for which the city imposes fees. Changes that we're proposing in this ordinance include updating the study every 5 years. We were told by stakeholders that 12 years is far too long to update the cost of services study. The study, or the ordinance, provides that we may effect changes to the fee schedule through resolution. We're also providing in this ordinance revision to phase in fee increases, authorizing council by resolution to establish phasing over a 4-year period, up to a 4-year period. It establishes the percentage of recovery, and Dennis, if I can get you to click on that link below, we will pop into, hopefully, the percentage of recovery for the services. This is an exhibit to the ordinance. This is in your packet, but we thought that if there were any specific percentage recoveries that council would like to address this evening, we can do so, and the public will be able to follow along with this spreadsheet on the specific fees that are subject to some subsidy. The ordinance provides that unless the exhibit demonstrates some level of subsidy, that the cost recovery will be at 100%. Any questions about cost recovery percentage in the exhibit?
I just had the one on library services, meeting room rentals. That's so small. What was the rationale that we were trying to make them available because we don't have a lot of rooms for community groups? Is that the idea?
I think that's the thing. We really don't make money off of our libraries. And the meeting space is something that serves the community, and it kind of fosters a feeling of community service at the library. So I think that is the philosophy behind it.
I might add that that particular percentage recovery didn't change in this version of the ordinance as well.
But Glenn, just to make sure, I mean, that last percentage depiction is really what the council would be giving first reading to tonight. I just want to make sure that the people understand that it isn't the fees, it's the percentage that the ordinance really addresses.
That's very important. Thank you, Homer. There are 2 elements to the ordinance. The language in the ordinance provides for cost studies every 5 years to establish the fees by resolution, that we may change the resolution without changing the ordinance, a phase-in of the fees, and then with this exhibit, it establishes the percentage of recovery for those fees that are not going to be sought at 100% cost recovery. This may seem very simple, and I think it is, that the cost, the fee that we establish is a factor of the cost as identified by the consultant that did the presentation in April, multiplied by the percentage of recovery, and that's the item that we're discussing this evening, and that's how we establish the fee. This evening I'm going to present a schedule of fees that are based on the percentage of recovery that is currently established, that is in the proposed ordinance, and if council elects to change the percentage of recovery established in this ordinance, we'll need to rework the fee that'll be attached to the resolution that we'll adopt at the second reading of this ordinance. Just a reminder on the study, the consultant identified that currently the city is recovering 35% of the costs in providing fee-related services. With the recommendation of the consultant and the implementation of that recommendation through the ordinance and resolution with the master fee schedule, we will be at 52% of the recommended cost recovery. What the schedule does, based on the ordinance that we're introducing this evening, is increase some fees, 136 specifically. Beyond the 136 and the increasing fees, we have building fees that are based on valuation. And those are, we'll discuss a little bit later in another slide how building fees are calculated, but the building-related fees are not, the valuation-based building fees are not included in the 136 numbers. 62 fees are decreasing. We have 11 new fees that are being recommended by the consultant. 266 of the fees that we have are going to be subsidized. 54 fees will be phased in over a period of up to 4 years. And 168 fees are not changing at all. As it relates to valuation-based building fees, the fees, again, are a factor of the valuation of the construction times valuation tables. And the valuation tables that the consultant considered in this study included the 2006 valuation tables that the building department is currently using, a 2008 proposed valuation table, as well as a 2009 proposed valuation table. We're recommending that council adopts, with the resolution that establishes the fee schedule, the 2008 valuation table. The consultant confirmed in their analysis, and this was critical for our city because valuation-based building fees have been subject to litigation in many communities. A part of the task for the consultant was to confirm that our 2006 and the proposed 2008 and 2009 valuation tables don't have us run afoul of government code restrictions that don't allow us to collect more than our actual cost in providing a service. The consultant identified in the study that these three valuation tables, the 2006, 08, and 09 valuation tables that are proposed, do not exceed the current costs of providing the services for valuation-based building fees. For the residential element of valuation-based building fees, the proposed increase would affect a 24% increase in the charge on the average. And as an example, a 2,500 square foot new family construction would increase the permit fees, plan check and permit fees, from $4,350, what it currently is, to $5,213. And then an example in the commercial area, which is going to realize, or we're recommending a 25% increase to, is that a new office construction of 16,000 square foot would increase the plan check and permit fees from $15,099 to $17,976. Questions about this slide? Thank you. Attached to the printed worksheet, I've provided a schedule of those fees in a number of categories. The first that we'll review are those fees that are increasing. For purposes of the printed product, we've included the existing fee and the recommended fee. For purposes of viewing the presentation by the public present this evening, those numbers got so small on the screen that it was not practical for us to provide more than the description of the fees that are increasing. The complete description, again, provided in the packets, the 21 copies that we've made this evening. There are 136 fees that are in the non-valuation building category that we're proposing to increase. Please, Dennis. A description of these fees before you on this spreadsheet, and I'll be happy to review any of the specific fees that we're proposing increases on. Moving on, which is easier said than done. We have to thank you, Dennis. The next schedule are 62 decreasing fees. And if council has any questions about those fees that are decreasing as a result of the consultant's determination that our current charge exceeds our cost, we have a number of fees that are decreasing, 62 in fact. We have 11 fees that are new as recommended by the consultant. Most of these are in the areas of making copies. We didn't have a charge for digital reproduction of public documents. We have two relatively few events in Revenue Division, going out of business permit renewals and special package deal reviews that we conduct on behalf of hotels. One general fund supported utilities related charge for establishing a jumper service. We've added a soccer element to the recreation department that for which we did not have a fee before, and now that we've added soccer, we have a fee for that. And then there are some new public areas for which we've established resident and nonprofit youth service organization charges. Questions about new fees? We have 266 non-valuation based fees that we are subsidizing as a result of two efforts. Stakeholders recommended that for example, in the area of library and recreation senior services, that there were a number of services they thought it was appropriate that we continue to subsidize. That subsidy, again, established by the exhibit to the ordinance that we're introducing this evening, and the amount of subsidy is articulated in this schedule. For a list of those specific services for which we're recommending subsidy, that schedule's here, and it ranges from having a sterilized dog and the licensing of that sterilized dog to a number of building-related permits, harbor construction permits. The majority of these are found in the building department, a number of fire department subsidies, and the greatest number, again, found in our recreation senior services categories. Any questions about subsidized services? After speaking with stakeholders, city staff, and finance committee, it was recommended that for those fees where the consultant has recommended a greater than 100% increase in the charge, and the current charge exceeds $100, that we phase those particular services in over a 3-year period. The schedule, there are 54 services that fall into that category. Those services listed in the attachment And without discriminating against any particular department, they were strictly based on these that are being exceed $100 in current charge and are recommended at a greater than 100% increase. The schedule, the recommended fee that you see in your attachment to this PowerPoint presentation lists a recommended fee that does not consider phasing. So what we propose to bring back to council would be a schedule, if we move forward this evening with the introduction of this ordinance, bring forward a schedule that would list for these phased-in fees a charge that's 2/3 less than you currently find in the recommended fee on the schedule before you. Questions about that schedule or phased-in fees?
You mean the increase is 2/3 less?
That's correct.
Yeah.
So again, this evening we're proposing to introduce the ordinance that establishes the percentage of cost recovery. At second reading, we would return with the ordinance and a resolution that, a copy of which we've included in the packet this evening, that's not subject to adoption this evening, and a fee schedule that would be attached to that resolution along with the 2008 building valuations. The building and planning development-related charges would not be imposed for 60 days by law. And of course, the ordinance would not become effective for 30 days after the second reading. So there would be some time before we would actually implement the fees that we're recommending to council this evening and in the second reading of this ordinance. Thereafter, we propose to come back to council annually with a CPI adjuster to the fees and to apply the increase for those fees that are being phased in over the 3 or 4 year period. Excuse me. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Will those be CPI adjusted as well?
I'm sorry?
The phased-in fees, will there be the phase-in as well as the CPI?
That's right. We would apply the CPI to the rate that's imposed and then bring in the phasing over the 3 or 4 year term. So CPI and the increase.
Okay. Thank you.
Councilman Curry?
And so we're clear, what's being voted on tonight is the fee recovery ordinance, not the fee schedule. No fees are being raised or lowered tonight as a result of tonight's action.
That's correct.
And do we have the flexibility in 2 weeks when we adopt the fee schedule to change the fees in a way that might be contradictory to the ordinance that we're voting on tonight, or not?
I'd defer to the city attorney on that.
If you adopt the ordinance tonight, if you approve the ordinance tonight, that's a first reading. If you want to change the percentages that are in the ordinance, then you would have to reintroduce it. If you want to change the phasing or the fees that reflect the percentages of the ordinance, you can do that in the resolution at the next meeting.
So when we vote on the fee resolution, you can say, instead of this fee being X dollars, we think it ought to be Y dollars.
The amount of the fee is set by the percentage of the recovery. So if it's 100% recovery in the ordinance that you're introducing tonight, then you would need to, the fee would have to reflect 100% recovery. The percentages are set in the ordinance. So if you want to change the percentages of what the fee are, is that you would have to reintroduce the ordinance. If you want to change the fees that are being phased in so that they get phased in differently, that's authorized by the ordinance. You can do that in the resolution at the next meeting. So if you have some concerns about the percentages of recovery on any of the fees in the ordinance, then this would be the time to make those changes to the ordinance, or you would have to do it again at the next meeting and reintroduce it.
Councilman Hitt?
Yes. Glenn, do you have any feeling with regard to the phasing in, the fees that are being phased in, do you have a rough feeling about the amount of revenue that will be foregone in the coming fiscal year due to the phasing? In other words, the 2/3 of increase that won't be implemented. Do you have a rough feeling for what that might be?
Well, I would first counsel the councilman that because we're not going to realize a full year of these fees in any event, that we're not going...
Let's just make it simple. What's the annualized give-up?
Thank you. Yes, the annualized version, our rough estimate is at $3.5 million. With this phasing, we are estimating currently that the new revenue realized from the fee increases that we're recommending this evening, along with the percentage recovery, would be roughly $3.5 million.
Instead of the $5 million that was originally estimated.
That's correct.
So the give up is about $1.5 million in the first 12 months under the new ordinance.
That's our rough estimate, correct.
Okay, and then the second year the give up would be 750, plus the CPI impact.
That's correct.
Okay.
Okay, Councilman Rosansky, do you have a question? Mayor Pro Tem Daigle?
I would just say, as our, serving as our revenue manager is really a time-consuming task, a lot of number crunching, and thought you handled really well all of the meetings with the stakeholder groups. So,
thank you.
We don't see a lot of people here in protest, so thank you.
We got good counsel from the Finance Committee with regards to dealing with the stakeholders.
Mr. Mayor, I do have one issue that I want to bring up, given the ordinance wording. And I was thinking of bringing this up at the next reading, but I think it's appropriate to bring it up now. It's on the second page, section 3.36030. Item number D. It says, no fee for service established in the fee resolution may be waived without prior city council approval. I mean, I need to let you know, and I think you probably know this, that I regularly waive some fees. I get nonprofits in particular, and those are the only fees I waive with. They'll give me a call and say, Homer would like to put up a sign at the Corona Del Mar fire station. Can you waive the fee because it's for a fun run or whatever the situation is? And I normally waive those fees with the thought that if they go to the city council, you're going to waive those fees. Sometimes there's a time crunch, but anyway, I've been doing that. How much do I do that? I'd say probably 15 times a year. So I wouldn't be allowed to do this. And maybe you don't want me to do it because it just depends upon my judgment. But I have been doing it based upon nonprofits and thinking that if they go to the city council, it comes to you in a council meeting, that you would waive those fees.
What would you say would be like the biggest fee you've waived? $500, $1,000?
No, I would say about 200 and maybe 225, something like that.
Okay, so if we said you have the power to waive anything under $500, would that pretty well cover all those situations?
Oh, I think so.
Right.
And if it were restricted to nonprofits, would that cause you a problem? So nonprofit fee waivers up to a maximum of $500 at the city manager's discretion.
That would be perfect as far as I'm concerned.
I'd be supportive of that practice.
As I.
Why can't we give him $1,000?
We could.
It
I
seems
trust
like to me
Homer.
that you're really kind of nitpicking it from the standpoint of he's not going to do anything that's really out of line without letting us know. And as our fees increase, we may get that $500 often.
The situation is one of two things. Normally, it's a fundraiser special event. So the thinking is if it's a fundraiser and they have to spend $300 for the city, that isn't a good thing. Or the other thing, it could be Christmas walk, and there's going to be signage going up. So it may not be a fundraiser, but it's an event that really is good for the community. So those are the two situations.
Are there ever situations where maybe it's not something like that, but maybe there's say there was something in the building department where someone feels like they needed help with something, or they're double paying a fee or something, where there's some allowance? Do you ever get involved with that?
There are a few situations where it's kind of a negotiation because this has been done. I don't think it's so much a fee waiver as it is a fee judgment in terms of whether it would be charged or not.
Okay.
I guess my question is, do we have to have a maximum limit on it, or can we trust our city manager?
One issue is that if there's going to be if there's a full discretion for the city manager to make a decision when to waive a fee or not. The city can get into trouble for waiving fees for some people over others, so it would be a good idea to have some sort of an authorization for a certain type of discretion under the circumstances under which the city manager might be authorized to waive fees. In most cases, the waiver of fees usually comes about as part of an agreement that the council has approved. So I think the manager's talking about just limited circumstances.
I do think it is a good idea that there be a limitation.
I'd be happy with $1,000, and if you just let us know once a quarter the fees that you waived, that would be fine.
Yeah. When we adopt the ordinance, then tonight, that will include the wording, and we'll approve it next week's meeting.
Okay, is there any other questions of Glenn or staff? Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
We've got two actions here. One is to introduce the cost recovery ordinance, which would be with the change to allow the city manager discretion up to $1,000 for nonprofits. And then the second one would be to provide direction to the staff on the attached resolution in the master fee schedule to be brought back at the second reading of the ordinance. Unless someone on the council wants to either change the percentages in the ordinance or make some changes to the master fee schedule at this time, which, remember, can also be made at the time that resolution is before us, I would entertain a motion to take action on those two portions of the recommendations.
So moved.
Second?
Okay. At this time, I'll open the item to public comments. Anyone wish to address the council on this issue?
Good evening. My name is Anne Broussard. I am a child development specialist. I've been working in the field of early education for about 36 years. I am here because I read about this in the Daily Pilot. I'm quite concerned about the percentage increase to, as you call it, daycare facilities. I would call them early childhood development or early education programs. I would like to recognize that Orange County is a very expensive place to live, at least as the third least affordable housing market in the country. The high cost of housing reduces the portion of parents' income available for child care, early education programs, and it reduces the provider's ability to offer affordable child care spaces. Early education is both a private and public benefit. As a public benefit, it's part of the education system. It's fostering better performance in intellectual, social, and emotional competence. Research has repeatedly confirmed that children who attend high-quality early education programs before the age of 3 will have improved life chances, providing significant economic gains and decreased public expenses for special education, delinquency, adult incarceration, health care, and social services. This increases the quality of life in communities and reduces government spending. In fact, the research shows that investment in early childhood education improves the local school's academic performance index, and that academic performance index, or API score as we call it, is the number one rate that improves our home values. So by investing in early childhood, we actually are investing in our own property values. I would also like to point out that there are only 12 licensed child care centers in Newport Beach and no family child care homes. Of those 12 licensed centers, 10 of them are nonprofits. This will increase the percentage by 35% to 52%, which is an actual increase from $194 to $729. Some of those programs, 3 of those programs, are state-subsidized programs, and their state subsidies is currently not adequate to meet, to provide quality child care. So to add $600 onto their annual rates is almost $600. It's going to be extremely difficult for those agencies. I would like to ask that you keep the current 35% recovery rate, or as you call daycare category, I would call early education, And I noted that you have 168 areas where the fees will not be increased. I would ask you to change that to 169 and add daycare or early education to that list where fees will not be increased and the percentage would stay at 35%. Thank you.
So we're rustling through papers here. Can you tell me what section that's under, Dennis, or somebody?
I'm on page 13, and it's in about the middle of the page. It says P, daycare facilities, annual permit fee for fire inspections. We'll go from 194, and I just have to say, I'm completely in favor of strong regulations that will protect our children. I in no way want to reduce the fire regulations for children, but the fee associated with that inspection, that annual inspection. And the other thing I noted that the vast majority of the child care centers in Newport Beach have 48 children, which would equate to only 2 classrooms. So how long will it take the fire department to inspect 2 classrooms? Is my question.
Okay, thank you. Is that, Mr. Ludow, is that something that falls under the ordinance or the fee schedule that attaches to the resolution? I'm having trouble following that.
I must state that I am a little confused as to, I guess she is talking about the fire inspection fee, and it sounds like it would go up, $500, Glenn, is that right?
The current fee is $194, as the speaker represents, and the consultants identified that that's 27% of the actual cost that the fire department has in conducting those inspections. The consultant identified that there are 8 such facilities that are subject to this fee in the city, and the current subsidy is $535. So their recommendation was to take this to $729. That would be 100% recovery. If we were to subsidize that, it would be to, we would then, it would, by necessity, we would be adding this category, daycare facilities, to the ordinance that we're introducing this evening, and at whatever recommended percentage of recovery council suggests.
And that was one of the phase-in, wasn't it?
I think he's on page 34, and that would be item number 57.
And that would be one of the phase-in then fees, is that right? Because it's more than 100%?
Well, at council's direction, we could leave the percentage of recovery at 100%. We could modify that by ordinance to whatever percentage council suggested. Whatever percentage we take it to, then we have the discretion in the ordinance to phase that increase in over up to a 4-year period.
Okay,
Glenn, to make sure we're all on the same page, are you referring to page 34,
of the user
item
fee
57?
Of the user fee study summary sheet.
That's correct.
Okay. My question, at least looking at the sheet, it says currently we have a cost recovery policy, currently, not the new ordinance, of 100% recovery on these types of facilities.
That's correct.
And so we're not changing our policy, it's just that the cost has gone up over the number of years since we've
12 years
adjusted the
since
fee.
we've studied it, the cost has increased significantly and not kept pace with the annual adjustments that we've made.
Is it partly just not so much that the cost has increased, but that there's a better allocation of the cost? I mean, I can't imagine that the cost has tripled or more than tripled.
There are 2 elements there. Councilman's correct that the actual time spent by staff has apparently increased, and we could provide detail on how much of that is actual time spent, how much of that is the cost overhead.
Well, okay. I guess I share the concern of the woman who came up and spoke about this, but my fear is that it's not like we're trying to recover more than what we were trying to cover before. It's just that the fees have changed over time. And I think if we start getting into a process of picking and choosing which ones we're going to change, without some other significant information, that I would not be in favor of that.
But this will be phased in, though.
We can certainly do that.
According to the policy you put up there.
We have the ability.
It's greater than $100, and the increase is greater than 100%.
That's correct. This is one that would be phased in, proposed at 3-year phasing in.
Okay, thank you, Glenn. Okay. Next speaker, please.
Good evening, City Council, Mayor, and my name is Roseanne Andrus. I'm with Child Care Connections. We are a network of agencies that are working to enhance and increase the production of child care facilities throughout Orange County. I also brought with me tonight, just for the record, an overview of Orange County child care facilities planning and zoning, which highlights some best practices around planning for child care facilities for your review. I am extremely concerned also about the safety and well-being of children in child care programs. I am a very strong advocate for increased licensing visits that are ardent with fire inspections, and definitely we feel that the fire inspection is valuable and needed. However, I am concerned about the cost increases proposed for the fire inspections as part of the cost recovery ordinance, fee resolution, and master fee schedule. If we want to do a better job at building a strong economy, increasing earnings, reducing crime, and balancing budgets, a good place to start is with high-quality preschool for our nation and our city's children. Investing in preschool and quality child care centers, such as the center that Councilmember Henn referred to as Harper Preschool, although it's not in Newport Beach, yields large measurable economic benefits to Newport Beach's children and families and Orange County overall. Our data shows that there are over 6,100 children with parents that are working, which warrants a significant need for child care services in Newport Beach. And these are children ages birth through 14 years old. However, there are only 1,300 spaces actually available in the city to actually accommodate this need. Of those spaces, we were able to document from community care licensing that there are 12 licensed child care centers in the city of Newport Beach that could possibly generate revenue with this proposed fee increase of about $8,700, which doesn't seem like a significant amount to really warrant a substantial gain in overall revenue. So by eliminating this increase, the city would be making a substantial investment in the young children and promote the quality of life for children in Newport Beach. Services to the community, such as quality child care, enhance the quality of life for the entire community. Quality child care adds to the economic strength of Newport Beach. It allows parents to work, and it prepares children for kindergarten and overall for life in the long run. In fact, research that's been conducted over 40 years has shown that children in quality preschool and quality child care centers do better in elementary schools, which increases the API scores at elementary schools, which then continues to maintain the high property values in the city of Newport Beach. The same study also shows that children in quality child care have a higher graduation rate, lower juvenile delinquency rate, lower teen pregnancy rates, high college attendance rates, higher employment rates, higher income levels as adults. Therefore, supporting quality, accessible child care is supporting the economy and the quality of life and the future of Newport Beach. So I too would propose that the city maybe take a look at retaining the fee increase and keeping it at the level that was stated in the documents at $194. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to address the council on this issue?
Good evening. My name is Diamond Tran. I'm a staff attorney with the Public Law Center. We provide free legal services to low-income people in Orange County. And part of our work is also to advocate for child care facilities development and to reduce the barriers that the cities have erected, essentially, to child care facilities development. This proposed increase is unimaginable in a time when more and more families, young families, need to, both mother and father need to work in order to make ends meet. And I'm concerned that an increase in these fees will result in possibly an increase in fees that are passed on to the families, and essentially will drive families out to cities that are working to reduce the barriers to child care facilities development, such as the cities of Costa Mesa and Huntington Beach. Costa Mesa recently eliminated their traffic impact fees for daycare centers, And Huntington Beach is also making great strides towards reducing barriers. And so to think about or to talk about quality of life in this city, I think we need to think about the possibility that families will ultimately have to go to neighboring cities for their daycare centers. And I don't think that we want these families to have to do that. It results in more traffic, it results in just less time with the family, and in general, just a lower quality of life. So I, along with my colleagues, urge you to reconsider this proposed increase. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other speakers? Okay, seeing none, I'll close the public comments and bring it back to council. Councilman Curry?
Well, the total amount of money that would be generated citywide by the increase on daycare centers is about $4,277. So it's not a big number. But on the other hand, it's not a big number, and I would be perfectly fine if we were to leave that fee where it was, given the testimony that we have today. Number one, my larger concern today with what we have is that we're sitting in place to raise development fees for tenant improvements, remodeling, counter-checking, and detailed plan checking by almost $1 million. And we have no plan for how we're going to improve the services provided, which our customer satisfaction survey tells us need to be improved. And what this is telling us is not only are we providing services that are not meeting the needs of our citizens, but we're losing a lot of money doing it. And it seems to me that if we're going to raise fees to that kind of a level, that we ought to couple that with a significant customer enhancement program to improve our service. In Anaheim, they waived all of their fees for a moratorium period, and one of the counter guys put on a tuxedo and acted as a concierge to the people waiting in line before they got to the counter. That's the concept of customer service and the kind of thinking that we ought to be applying to improving the services that we have. So I'm going to support the cost recovery ordinance because I think it's good policy. But I think when the fee ordinance comes back in 2 weeks, I would hope that it reflects some service enhancements and value to the residents for the fees that we're raising.
Pro Tem Daigle.
And then, Councilman Curry, you would propose that the fee be frozen on the daycare?
I would.
Okay, thank you.
Is that a motion? Or?
Yeah, it's an amendment to the motion.
Second.
Okay, so the amendment to the motion is to freeze the daycare center fee, which means would be done as part of the attachment of the master schedule of fees to the resolution and not any changes to the ordinance. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
When you say freeze, does that mean also eliminate cost of living increases?
I think what we'll need to do is change the percentage of that fee.
In the ordinance itself?
Yes.
Well, we need to do that tonight then.
Yes.
To Exhibit A?
That's correct. The exhibit would need to reflect the percentage of recovery that council is recommending. And I would direct council's attention to the exhibit to the ordinance that we're discussing this evening. And in the after-school and camp programs under the Recreation Department, you'll see a range of percentage recoveries there from 15 to 30%. I think the current analysis showed that the recovery level is at 27%. If you'd like to fit this particular service into one of the categories under the fire department, it would be consistent with what we've done in the recreation areas. It relates to after-school programs and camp programs.
So I would recommend to Councilmember Curry that we go with a 25% subsidy rate.
Right. That results in it being essentially where it is today?
Essentially where it is today, and then that would also result in it still being subject to a cost of living increase.
I would incorporate that. Thank you, Councilman Haney.
Okay, so Mr. Everode, that would be a separate category in the after-school camp programs?
We would include that in the fire department schedule. It's a fire department charge. I was just drawing a comparison for council that is analogous to those charges that we have in after-school programs and recreation. So we would bring back to council at second reading an exhibit that has a category for daycare facilities under the fire department at a 25% recovery level.
Okay. So it'd be under fire and marine daycare facilities, 25%.
I think what we're doing is talking about doing is changing line 57 to reflect a 25% recovery rate. Right?
No, this is a listing of the different fees and the changes.
I see what you're
The ordinance itself only lists the fees that will be recovered at less than 100%. So
right.
it just will
I'm
be
with
an
you.
added item
It's in
that
addition
is
to
being
Exhibit A to
introduced.
the ordinance.
Correct. I'm with you.
Okay, so that was an amendment to the main motion. That's acceptable to the maker?
Mr. Mayor, could I make a comment before the council votes, and that is to address Councilman Curry's comment. I and the rest of the staff have heard his comments over the last two meetings, and we tried to address them, and maybe not very well, in the staff report by saying that council has allowed us to add staff to both the building and the planning departments. I think doing that has allowed us to cut the plan check time. We think that those are improvements, and we are getting better, and these fees are predicated on paying for the cost of those additional personnel. So there isn't any particular process that we can point to other than what we've talked about before and what we talked about in closed session as far as having a gatekeeper as far as bringing in the plans and making sure that they are complete to begin the plan check process. But that was our thinking, that basically these fees would catch up with improvements in terms of additional personnel that were needed in order to improve the process and speed up the process.
Thank you, Councilman Webb.
I would just embellish that comment with two other thoughts, and that is that to the extent fee increases are substantial, they meet that phasing test, they will be phased in, which will allow time for service to improve as the fee is phased in where there are large increases. And secondly, we have a performance measurement initiative going forward, which includes planning and building in those departments. And I am hoping and expecting when we see specific measurements for those departments, we'll have measurements that will get at the heart of what we're after here by way of improved service and set a regimen then that we can set higher targets or improved targets and measure our progress toward those targets. So that's what I'm looking forward to address specifically your concern.
Okay, Councilman Webb.
Yes, I was maybe not paying as good attention as I should have. Did the motion also include the allowing the city manager to waive?
Yes, it did.
fees? Okay, excuse me.
Mayor Pro Tem Daigle.
With regards to the customer service, one additional thing the city is going to be doing, which I think is great, is reaching out to the stakeholders in the development community and finding out a little bit more, where the areas of dissatisfaction would be. So I think that's important, so we have that feedback, and I think that would be very constructive.
Okay, please vote on the motion.
The motion carries.
Okay, our next public hearing is item number 24. It's the Signal Peak Verizon Telecommunications Facilities Permit. Mayor Pro Tem Daigle.
Mr. Mayor, I need to recuse myself from this item. Verizon Wireless is a client.
Okay. Is there a staff report?
There is. Go ahead.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Council. This is an application
What's your name?
I'm Makana Nova, the project planner for this application. The application is requests the addition of 4 cellular antennas to an existing steel lattice structure at Signal Peak in Newport Coast. The existing structure is 100 feet in height. It's a non-conforming structure that was constructed and permitted prior to the annexation of the Newport Coast area. The new antennas would be located at 65 feet in height, which would be the maximum height permitted per the telecom ordinance with City Council approval, of course. With City Council approval, we'll permit 15 feet above the maximum height limit, which is 50 feet, so 65 feet. Is there any questions at this time?
It was hard to tell looking at the photos. Does anything else this high? Is everything else
Yeah, there's about 5 other
that are already
towers on that.
Yeah,
that
that's
deep.
what it looked like that I wanted to show.
Okay, Councilman Curry?
And just to confirm, have the neighbors and residents nearby been noticed about the proposal?
They have.
And have we had any response or feedback from the community?
The one representative from the nearby homeowners association came in to review the file. They appear to be in support of the project. They're looking for more cellular service in that area. So.
Okay, any other questions of staff? Thank you. You have a question, Councilman Rosansky?
No, but I'll move the recommended action.
Okay, well, we have to see if anyone wants to comment on it. Anybody from the
Second.
public wish to comment? Okay, step forward.
My name's Matt Vigil, and I represent Verizon Wireless. And just to elaborate on what staff had already told you, we've received a number of complaints from people in that area who have substandard cell service for Verizon. And so the whole intent of what this enhancement that we're doing is to increase the coverage for the people that live in the surrounding area. And the site's been up for over 50 years. It used to be Army Corps of Engineers. It was called Signal Peak back then. It's Signal Peak now. There's like 7 or 8 towers already up there. So it's not a new cell site. It's an enhancement of this existing cell site. And that's it. If you have any questions, I'll be happy
Thank
to
you.
answer them.
Okay, anyone else? Seeing no one, I'll close public comments. Was there a second to Council Kaminsky? Okay, please vote.
Motion carries.
Okay, next item is item number 25, the Fury Rock and Roll Sushi Lounge. That doesn't quite roll off my tongue.
Mayor and members of the City Council, because this item arose out of a settlement agreement, I'm going to make the initial report for you tonight. This concerns a use permit for property located at 4221 Dolphin Striker Way, which is located adjacent to MacArthur Boulevard in the airport area. The property has been occupied in the past with an El Torito restaurant and most recently the Fury Rock and Roll Sushi Lounge. The zoning on the property is for restaurant use only, and while the prior use permit conditioned only a use permit, revocations began over a year ago when the Code Enforcement and Police Department determined that the operators of the Fury were operating a nightclub. During the revocation proceedings, the Fury nightclub filed a claim with the city on February 20th of this year. And after looking at the overall goal of the revocation process, and this operation and specifically and the location of the operation, we were able to reach a settlement with the property owner where the Fury representatives and the property owner agreed to shut down the operations of the business, reimburse the city for the cost of the revocation proceedings, and agree to a modified stringent set of conditions which clearly limit the operation to that of a restaurant during all hours the business is open. Under recent case law, land use decisions that require public hearing may not be made by settlement agreement, and for that reason, we have the public hearing tonight on considering the revised conditions to the use permit. The staff report attaches both the agreement, the settlement agreement, which is also made, compliance with that settlement agreement is also made a condition of the use permit, and the new conditions of approval, which would be for a restaurant with 4,162 square feet of dining area, of net public area, with dancing and live entertainment to take place in 20% or less of the entire net public area, and to operate only as an accessory to the restaurant use. Rosalind Ung of the Planning Department is available for any questions about the permit, and I can give any more details about the settlement agreement, which has been fully signed by the Fury and the property owner. Approval of the resolution tonight will approve a new use permit with the new conditions, trigger and terminate the revocation proceedings, and give Fury and the property owner the right to assign the lease and operation to a new operator without the continued process of the revocation and litigation.
Okay, thank you. Any questions of the city attorney? Okay, seeing none, I'll open the public hearing. Anyone wish to address the council on this item? Seeing no one, I'll close the hearing, bring it back for motion.
Move the action.
Second.
Please vote.
Councilmember Rosansky.
Thank you.
Motion carries.
Okay, next item on our agenda is the item number 27, the 2008-2009 budget adoption and revised checklist. Oh, I'm sorry. You're right. I'm jumping ahead here. No, I forgot to go back to the agenda. I was just going through the book. Madam Clerk.
Public comments. Public comments are invited on non-agenda items generally considered to be within the subject matter jurisdiction of the council. Speakers must limit comments to 3 minutes. Before speaking, please state your name for the record.
Okay, anybody wish to address the council?
Mr. Mayor and Council, Bernie Savalstad, Newport Beach. When I was working on McFadden Square, I discovered that we have kind of a lack of a facility for a history of Newport Beach. I recommend that the mayor and the council adopt or set up a true active historical committee. One of their goals would be to how to best achieve retaining the history in one place for the history of Newport Beach. I went to try to find the history of Newport Beach, Sherman Gardens, the library, Don Webb, 2 or 3 other people, and honest to God, I hate to see this for the next 100 years. We need to really think about in your overall plans for the city, when you leave this place, you go to a new place up at Fashion Island or new facilities for your future budgeting, a large room or a small building, some type of facility, and an active committee on history of Newport Beach. Because if you go to the library, if you haven't written a book, there's no history there. I was just up there today. Sherman Gardens, they don't have a lot of history. I tried to get them to work on history of Newport Beach. They really had no big interest in that. I found out they cover all of California. You can't depend on people being here forever, so we need to have a real historical committee that's active, and we need to have a committee that can propose to the council something for the future of the history of Newport Beach. So that's my recommendation.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else wish to address the council under public comments? Okay, seeing no one, I'll close public comments. Next item is number 26, the Planning Commission agenda for June 19th.
Mayor and members of City Council, the first item that was on the agenda for action after the minutes was the Fury Rock and Roll Sushi, which, as you've just heard, you've just taken care of. Next item was a housing element. As you know, the city is required to submit a revised housing element to comply with state law. It has to be submitted this year. That was presented to the Planning Commission, and they recommended that this be sent on to the City Council for consideration. City Council will take a look at this before forwarding it on to the State Department of Housing and Community Development, and then you'll get to see it again after comments come back from HCD and staff works to revise consistent with those comments. So you will not be seeing it again for probably another 90 days after your first review. There were some comments made, including those by the Kennedy Commission. The Planning Commission asked that we include those with the report to the Planning Commission. Next was a development agreement for the Santa Barbara condominiums that were previously proposed for development by Lennar Homes. That project's been sold, so the development agreement item was continued to allow the new owners, Scholar Real Estate Partners, to review the development agreement and decide if they're going to go along with the terms of that. Item number 6 was the Powers residence on 2223 Pacific Drive. This was one, it was a modification permit, but we'd also scheduled to go to the Planning Commission because there's some new applications of the new CLUP and general plan policies that we wanted to read from the Planning Commission as to the appropriate extent of development on this particular hillside site. Because of the time constraints, the applicant did ask that we continue that, so that will be coming back, I think, on the 17th of July to the Planning Commission. Also on here was the ARI project, 201, 2005, 205, and 207 Carnation Avenue and 101 Bayside Place. I think you're all familiar with this. You have seen it before. This was the 8-unit condominium in Corona Del Mar up above the harbor. The project had been redesigned consistent with consistent with City Council direction to move the building up above the 50.7-foot elevation above sea level. The applicant did comply with some changes to driveway widths and a design change to what they were calling the back cave entrance off the back side of the building below the 50.7 elevation line was one of the required changes. That should be coming to the Planning Committee or City Council for approval, I believe, on July 8th. And lastly, a general plan progress report required by state law that every year the City Planning Commission take a look at what progress is made in implementing the general plan. The Planning Commission did recommend adoption of that report and send it on to City Council and HCD and the Office of Planning and Research of the state.
Any questions of Mr. Lipo? Okay, thank you. Anybody from the public want to address the council on the Planning Commission agenda report? Okay, seeing no one. Is there any action required on that? No action, okay. Okay, now we get to go on to the budget adoption. That's item number 27, the 2008-2009 budget adoption. The actions to straw vote the items included in the budget checklist and determined by individual vote if the checklist items should be included in the budget, and adopt budget resolution number 2008 and the city's 2008-2009 budget is amended by any approved budget checklist items. What I'd like to do for a procedure tonight is first ask the staff if they have any additional information on the checklist that came out of questions at study session this afternoon, then open it to public comment on the budget checklist and the budget as a whole, then bring it back to City Council and ask the council if they want to pull any individual items from the budget checklist for a straw vote, then do a straw vote on the remaining items on the checklist, then come back and do a vote and discussion on the individual items pulled from the checklist, and then follow up with the final motion on the budget. So with that, Mr. City Manager, do we have any report on any of the items that were brought up at study session?
I think Steve Batum has some information on the earlier discussion that took place at our study session regarding trees being placed on MacArthur Boulevard.
Thank you, Homer. Mayor and Council, regarding the item for MacArthur Boulevard median trees, the proposed project will include 128 trees. Right now, for budget purposes, we're showing 64 at 24-inch box and 64 at 36-inch box, and we anticipate the 24-inch box will probably be about approximately a 12-foot tree, and the 36 will be about a 16-foot tree, and that's similar to what occurred on San Joaquin.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay, was that the only item we had to report on?
I think so.
Okay. Okay, with that, I'm going to open this item to public comment. Anybody that wishes to address the council on either the budget as a whole or any of the individual items that are on the budget checklist.
Good evening, Mayor Selich, City Council members, and City staff. My name is Peter Rooney, and I am the president of the Newport Harbor Football Boosters. I represent a number of concerned parents from both Corona Del Mar High School and Newport Harbor High School. The city has included a $30,000 request for the resodding of Davidson Field, which is located at Newport Harbor High School. The concerned parents were I don't know, I want to keep, not to say upset, but the field is in a fairly bad condition. There's many bald spots, holes in the field throughout, and it's generally an unsafe condition for our kids. The school district at this time doesn't have any money to fix the field, and the field's been this way for like 6 years. We've been trying to work with the school district. They have approved for us to replace the field, but to use private monies. So the cost of the project is $137,000. We've privately raised in the last 2 weeks $103,000, but we are looking for the city to help us if they can. The field is a major asset to the community. Not only do numerous high school teams play on the field from both Corona Del Mar and Newport Harbor, we have the Friday night football games, which is a big tradition in Newport, the city of Newport Beach. We have 2,000 to 3,000 fans each Friday night at those football games, as well as community gets to use the field after hours on the weekend. So it's a major asset to the community. We ask for the city's support and are appreciative of whatever the city can do for us. Do you have any questions for me?
Okay. Are you the only one here to speak on this
No.
tonight?
Well, I think I'm going to be the only one to speak for your benefit, but there are other people here in the audience who are interested.
Okay. I thought they might be part of your group. Okay. I don't think they all have to get up and speak. Is there any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else wish to address the council on the budget as a whole or the checklist? Please step forward.
Good evening, Council, City Staff.
Are you going to finish the speech you started
I
earlier?
am. I'm back. Peggy Fort, California Marketing Concepts, representing the Restaurant Association. I just wanted to start by saying that the Restaurant Association Board and the entire restaurant community would like to thank the Council for their time. We conducted a number of meetings over the last couple of months to go over restaurant industry issues and our supplemental budget request, which we realize has increased pretty dramatically this year. At that time, Council had asked us to look at specific projects which we could allocate an amount to, which we did. And the reason why we are proposing a second restaurant week for the fiscal 08-09 year is because of the enthusiasm that was generated not only by the restaurateurs themselves, but by the community. We got a number of emails and responses by the community that it was a great campaign. They would like to see it either extended or a second one developed. Through results from our surveys, restaurants reported a 15% to 300% increase in sales during the restaurant week, which was a generally slow time of the year. And restaurant week did basically pay the city back on its investment through the tangible tax revenue that it generated into the general fund. I also wanted to note that the impact that Restaurant Week has incrementally on additional spending, whether it's through people going to Fashion Island to go shopping before or after their meals, Balboa Island, the hotel participation with the Visitors Bureau and the tourism aspect of Restaurant Week is important to take into your consideration. Other destinations have contacted the Restaurant Association over the last couple of years, not only to get counsel on cooperative marketing programs, but also on Restaurant Week. And those destinations obviously are competitors such as Huntington Beach, Dana Point, San Clemente, Manhattan Beach, the Los Angeles Convention and Visitors Bureau. And it's important to note that the Anaheim, Orange County Convention and Visitors Bureau tried to launch a restaurant week 2 years ago and was unsuccessful in getting that off the ground. So a lot of destinations, which are our competitors, look to Newport Beach for counsel, and they've noticed the impact that the Restaurant Association's marketing programs have had on the community, as well as the impact of Restaurant Week. And they see the value of these types of campaigns for their own economic development. Just real quickly, next year, if we are successful in getting the support for 2 restaurant weeks, we have a proposed goal of generating close to $150,000 worth of tax revenue back to the city, and that would be done through increasing the menu price for the lunch to $20, getting additional participation from restaurants, opening it up and trying to get closer to 100 restaurants. Last year we had about 70. And also with that, looking to try to, again, our intent to bring in more sponsors as this campaign grows. And with 2 restaurant weeks, we would be able to provide more marketing value and benefit to potential sponsors and leverage our in-kind value for this campaign to close to $535,000. So, again, on behalf of the restaurant tours that weren't able to be here tonight, we just really urge your thoughtful consideration on looking to continue to grow and develop 2 campaigns like a lot of the other destinations in this country do, and see the impact that it has on the community and the industry as a whole. So thank you for your consideration.
Okay.
Hello, my name is Sherry Drury, as you probably know by now. I'm going to be very brief. I just want to say that the Board of Directors thank you in advance for your support in the first-class marketing efforts of the Newport Beach Restaurant Association and the economic development of the restaurant industry in the city of Newport Beach. We urge you to please support the entire Newport Beach Restaurant Association supplemental budget for the fiscal year 2008-2009. Everyone will benefit from the growth of the Newport Beach Restaurant Association bid, the community, the restaurants, and the city. Thank you.
Thank you, Sherry.
Hello, my name is Barry Pierce. I'm representing Newport Beach Marriott. I'm the Director of Restaurant Operations. We also operate a Sam and Harry's at the Newport Beach Marriott. And the reason I bring that up, first of all, I'd like to thank you for your support of Restaurant Week. I forgot that's the most important part. But I also wanted to tell you that Sam and Harry's out of Washington, D.C., along with the Caucus Room, is involved in Restaurant Week there. They began that 5 years ago, and 3 years ago went to a two-week session that has proved incredibly successful, followed quickly by Boston and San Diego. So, again, thank you very much for all your support.
Thank you.
I have a question. In those cities, who pays for the advertising for the Restaurant Week? Is it the restaurateurs, or does the city contribute that substantial amount of advertising?
I can't give you exact details, but I do know that both the cities or the district of Washington contributes along with the restaurant tours, the independents, and the brands that are there. I can't give you numbers exactly, but I can tell you it's very successful. Thank you.
Hi, Jim Walker again, Mayor and members of the council. In terms of Restaurant Week, the concern that I have is, as most of you know and probably have read, that charitable organizations are struggling right now because donations are down. In kind, so are sponsorships. And although Peggy and her company has done a great job of going out and getting the sponsorships, right now what I think we're faced with is going to be a greater challenge this year in getting those sponsorships and helping us within the promotion of Restaurant Week. And consequently, the funds that we requested really help supplement and offset what potentially we may or may not get. I think Restaurant Week is very vital to our community. I would hope that we can maintain it. I also have a concern that if we can't maintain the sponsorships and the participation, it's not impossible that it won't go away. I know right now the restaurants, mine included, it's a tough time. We're facing higher costs and lower sales. And having the marketing available through the Newport Beach Restaurant Association and being able to participate in Restaurant Week has been a great boost, not only to our restaurants, but hopefully to the community. So I would hope that you would really consider the fact that we are looking at 2 Restaurant Weeks. I think that we're looking at 2 different venues, one very similar to the one that we've had in the past. The other that we want to try and incorporate is more of a restaurant weekend so that we can also hopefully get the hotels to participate with us. And one of the concerns, or one of the comments that I've certainly had from my guests in terms of Restaurant Week, is that it doesn't go through the weekend. And although that's the time that we try and get the most for our money, because hopefully we're booked during those times, I think that most of the restaurants would be willing to take one weekend and discount their menu and hope that it would also generate additional customers and additional revenues for the city. So I appreciate what we've gotten from you, but we can certainly use the help. Thank you.
Again, my name is Wendy Boyd with American Express, and want to also share again the partnership aspect of coming together and how important that to continue on additional years that can build reinforcement of a great partnership opportunity, and also by adding on additional time and weekends, and that aspect can really be helpful of gaining the partnership dollars back and to self-fund this almost to an extent. would be the goal at some point, but we need the council to help support continuing and expanding. And the weekend is a great opportunity. We've helped support out-of-market with American Express going up to card members to come into Newport Beach, and that would be really helpful for them to stay over a weekend and not just have to concentrate into the week. So again, partnership marketing is where it can really be helpful, and by adding an extra day and or extra weekend and extra week outside during this time frame where it's really helpful during the September and January time frame. So I'd like to be able to get your support to expand that. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good evening, Jan Venice at Newport Heights. I'd like to speak in support of the city helping out, if they can, the high school rejuvenation of the football field at Davidson Field. My son played football at Newport Harbor High School, and I've gone to many of the games over the past 28 years. And they do need, that field does need to be rejuvenated, and to the extent that the city can find it in their budget, I think it would help the youth of Newport Beach and helping to prevent injuries, in particular, from having a bad football field there. So if you can help that, that would be greatly appreciated. Thank you.
Were you proposing sedge grass there, Jan?
Will you let us park in your driveway if we go to a game there?
Good evening, Mayor and Councilor Ron Hendrickson, Port Streets. I know earlier you withdrew item number 7, which was a resolution, proposed resolution relating to this budget item, but I'm referring to the budget item on the supplemental expenditure budget request, harbor dredging project planning and permitting, and for $100,000. I'd just like to recommend that you hold that item in the budget. It seems like it's a high priority in this city, and it just seems like having it in the budget is an appropriate thing. Now, maybe you won't spend money on it this year, but to push it off another year does not, in my judgment, seem appropriate. I think it would be very good to have it in the budget, and I would highly recommend that you do that. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay, I'll close public comment. Just a point of clarification on the harbor dredging project planning and permitting. I think at the study session we changed that to scientific studies. Was that correct? Or not? Or do we need to change it here?
Mr. Mayor, we know what it means, so...
Just leave it like it is?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, well, I think part of it, though, it could be utilized for planning. There would be, looking at sort of a critical path, and as Councilman Hen brought up some of the fact-finding. Yes. So it wouldn't exclusively be scientific studies, but part of an effort to look at a project.
Okay.
Would that be acceptable, Mr. Mayor?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm just trying to get clarification, make sure we're on the same page here. Okay, what I'll do now is go ahead and I'll just go down the line here and ask anyone if they want to pull an item off for special discussion. Councilwoman Gardner?
0110-8250, which would be Restaurant Week, and the 0110-8250, the grant, the Orange County Film Commission.
Okay. Okay, well, you'll get your turn.
The artificial turf for the Bean Creek Park.
Okay, Councilman Webb?
I'd like to hold the bid also, as well as the landscape improvements on Bristol, and the Balboa median and Parkway landscaping design and improvements between 32nd Street and Coast Highway and the Peninsula Point.
Okay, Councilman Hen?
I'd like to pull the Balboa vision plan. And let's see. Did somebody else already pull the grant to the Orange County Film Commission?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Then just the vision panel.
Okay, Councilman Rosansky?
Mine have been covered already, so.
Okay, Mayor Pro Tem Daigle?
None to pull, Mr. Mayor, but I wanted to find out how I can go in the other direction, and that would be to add an item, the Newport Bay Naturalist, $24,000.
Are we permitted to do that? Okay, so we have 24,000 for...
Mr. Mayor, did I mention the landscape plans on Bristol? Because I wanted to pull
Yes.
that one too.
Yes, you did. Okay. All right, can I have a motion then on the straw vote for the remaining budget checklist?
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Please vote.
Motion carries.
Okay, well, the first item on the list, do we want to take all the Restaurant Association things as one item? Yeah, why don't we do that? Councilman Gardner, do you want to start off on that?
I'm supportive of Restaurant Week, and I'm supportive of adding a second week. I think that the city can do a great deal with it that we haven't done yet. I'd like to see the other bids get involved and have the village of Corona Del Mar, for example, be open during Restaurant Week, so there's that. But I am concerned, I'd like to get some feeling from the other council members whether the 75,000 is maybe a bit steep, and whether I might be comfortable, a little more comfortable with a lower amount. I'll say 50-50.
Okay, Councilman Webb, did you want to talk about the bid matching in addition?
Yeah, I think that in looking at that this is one of the areas where we have, in other bids, tended to match the assessments that the various different bids have put forth. And in this particular instance, the 35,000 matches, well, it gets up to 70,000, but if you actually look at the fees that should have been collected, it should have been around 80,000 or 85,000. So I would recommend that that be increased to 50,000 if we're talking about just that item, because that would give them a total of 85,000 matching, and if they were to collect their full assessment, they would end up getting around $80,000 to $85,000. For some reason or another, they were not able to collect $15,000 or $20,000 of the amount that was assessed. And
None of the bids do. They always have a
deficiency.
always have some mowing.
Okay, so my understanding that you're suggesting that we increase the bid matching to 50,000, and then what is your thinking on the Restaurant Week?
As far as Restaurant Week is concerned, I could support 50,000 for one Restaurant Week, just like we did last year. I'm a little leery about, this project started 2 years ago, and it was a one-time expense, $50,000. Yes, we need to have some startup money. It might take 2 years. Second year it comes back, yes, we need 50,000 more. Third year, we need 150,000 instead of just 50,000. And I'm really concerned because we have 70 restaurants participate last year, and if we look at that per restaurant, that means that we gave 70 restaurants, we would give, if we budgeted the full $150,000, we would give 70 restaurants, in effect, $2,142 in advertising. Now, maybe I'm looking at this too much like an engineer, but I think that we aren't providing that type of benefits to any of the other bids in the town, and I think we're going down a really steep slope here if we start really subsidizing the advertising programs for all the business districts in town. And so my recommendation is we would do 50,000 for one Restaurant Week, and that if additional funds could be raised by the Restaurant Week, that we match it. So if they could raise $50,000, then we match $50,000. But I really think that we're subsidizing more than we probably should in this association or bid.
So you're proposing, if I understand you correctly, to give the restaurant bid 50,000 instead of 35,000,
Right.
and then offering 50,000 for one Restaurant Week on a matching basis. Is that correct?
Well, no, I indicated that we would carry the 50,000 that is currently, that we did last year, so we're not cutting them back. But if they raised matching funds in addition to that 50,000 from their Restaurant Week or sponsorships or whatever, that we would match whatever they raised.
Okay, but it would have to be a cash match, not in
It'd have
kind.
to be a cash match.
Okay. Any other comments? Councilman
I'm
Rosensky?
willing to support Councilwoman Gardner's recommended action.
Okay, Councilman Webb? Or Hen, excuse me.
Yeah, I would support Councilwoman Gardner's action as well, which I understand to be, since you didn't pull the item, a $35,000 additional match on the bid, plus $50,000 to contribute toward one restaurant week and another $50,000 toward a second restaurant week. And so she's nodding her head, yes, that's what her suggestion was. And I like that suggestion because I think probably the Restaurant Association and its members can stretch a little harder to close the gap. If there's still a gap to get to a second restaurant week, then you could probably work a little harder to close that gap. And this is still a significant increase in funding from the prior year, which I would think with some more creativity you'd be able to get to 2 restaurant weeks with that funding. So one way or another.
Okay, so your proposal, which Council Member Gardner and Rosansky is supporting, is basically for $135,000 total, $35,000 for the bid match and $50,000 for each restaurant week?
Correct.
Okay. Councilwoman Daigle?
It's a really good event. You know, our residents get great bargains and good meals, so a lot of people enjoy it. So I support the event, and certainly event planning is part of those costs. However, I think that Councilman Webb's support is generous. I think it provides some very good backing for the event, as well as additional incentive to raise more money. So I would be supportive of his proposal.
Okay, Councilman Curry, we've got 2 proposals on the table.
Well, I'm going to support Councilmember Gardner on this. I think Restaurant Week is a great event. I think doing 2 of them is going to be a great asset to the community. I think $75,000 is too much of a subsidy per week, so I would support the 35 plus 50 plus 50.
Okay, well, it seems like we've got a majority to support that. I'm not going to chicken out, so I'll say that I would have supported Councilman Webb and Councilman Daigle on it. I think that the Restaurant Association is overreaching on this. I have empathy for what they're trying to do. I think that they need to concentrate on one restaurant week and get it up and running to a higher level than it is before we get into a second one. But I think the votes are there to go ahead and allocate them $35,000 for the bid match and $50,000 for each restaurant week. Is there a motion on that?
Second.
Can we have one clarification?
Yes.
Is this a one-time expenditure as is listed in the budget checklist?
That's what it says. That's what it says, one time.
So next year?
Next year, it's a whole new ballgame.
Please vote.
Motion carries.
Okay. Next item is the artificial turf for Bonita Creek Park. Councilman Curry, that was your item?
Well, I understand there's, Steve, is there a proposal to change this amount or change this proposal, or? I'll just say, I think $1 million for artificial turf. I've had nobody come to me and say that we need to replace the turf at the park, and I think it's a tremendous amount of money given our park investments in other parks in Sunset Ridge and Marina and other places. So I would not be supporting an allocation of this size.
I guess maybe to address your comment, why don't we ask, since Wes is still here, to come forward and maybe you can explain the need for the improvements there.
Anyhow, this afternoon went well, didn't it?
Did you just resign?
No, not at all.
You're leaving anyway.
No, I'm not. I told Steve he liked my tie. I said I'd give it to him after this meeting. But anyhow, artificial surface in Bonita Creek. Bonita Creek is our toughest maintenance job in the city because of the soil there. It's dredge material. And as a result, it is down about 5.5 months each year. Typically, our other natural turf fields in the city are down approximately 6 weeks. So the total loss over there compared to our other facilities like Bonita Canyon is about 4 months on a lit field. And
which I think is important because they're, even with the new parks that are coming online, they're not going to be lit fields, or at least not Sunset Ridge Park.
That's correct.
or Marina Park.
And so where the staff has come into this over the last 2 years is often different sports groups will say, if you ever get interested in looking at artificial surface, talk to us, and perhaps that might be a location. That's as far as we have gone. I have talked to my counterparts in other cities on the costs of artificial surface and those that are installing them. It is approximately $1 million for a football-sized field, which this one is. We have talked to a few providers and vendors and installers, and the state-of-the-art is getting much better in terms of safety. There are maintenance issues. They don't go away. You have to keep the field clean, basically, on a weekly basis, and keep it somewhat sanitized because of what goes on in athletic events. But to stand here and make it the highest priority in the city, given what else is going on in our CIP over the next 2 or 3 years, I can't do that. It would be a nice addition. Councilmember Rosansky and some others have asked me about it, and I said that would probably be a place. We have not studied it scientifically in terms of what the soil conditions are or what the true costs are. We have not had any conversations at the PB&R level with the Park Development Committee or the youth groups in terms of any participation as a partner financially, although they have informally indicated they would be very interested in that. And so that's where it is at the discussion level, which is all very informal. And now tonight, as a checklist item, we're in a position to discuss it, and I think eventually in this city somewhere there will be artificial surface, there's value in it, and it's really whatever the council wants to do.
Well, I was just going to say, I mean, this issue was kind of brought to my attention because of the situation with the downtime of the field, number one, and apparently the soil condition there doesn't allow for grass to grow properly. It's high salinity and drainage issues or whatever, and that's part of the reason why we have a problem there. And additionally, you know, I met with lacrosse folks, and you know, they indicated that from a scheduling standpoint, they have problems catching fields because their season, I guess, is in that time, like November to February, where most of our fields are down for maintenance, and so there's scheduling issues as far as they're concerned, and that's an up-and-coming sport, and that's not a sport that, you know, boasts 1,000 players now, but certainly they're in the hundreds and growing more rapidly probably than any other sport we have in town. And the fact that it is a lighted field, and, you know, if we're going to spend money on fields, certainly lighted fields should have a priority. This is a field that's already there. It's not something that we really have to build or develop. It's a field that can be enhanced and made usable year-round and bring in probably a whole other sport here that's probably going to benefit by it, as well as the other sports like soccer and you know, whoever else would use a field of that type. So, you know, I understand it is that we do have other priorities. Certainly, you know, I'm looking to spend a lot of money over in Sunset Ridge Park, and we're looking to spend a lot of money in Marina Park and several other places around town. But those projects are kind of several years, or at least 2 or 3 years out. This is something that, you know, we could get done immediately, or at least in the next 6 months, let's say, and or to a year. I mean, you tell me, Wes, how quickly something like this could get done.
We could probably definitely accomplish it in this upcoming fiscal year, and so it's just a matter of getting started immediately.
So, you know, I mean, we're not voting to spend the money tonight. It's more of a placeholder in there to kind of get the process rolling. I mean, you still could do your outreach with the groups that you feel would need to be contacted with regard to this. I mean, it would have to come back as a council-approved contract in any event. So, you know, we talk a lot about providing sports fields. We've done, I mean, for the last year and a half, probably half of our meetings have talked about sports fields. So here's a place where we can kind of make an immediate impact and get probably a lot of bang for our buck, because it is a lighted field, because it's not being used now, because it would present an opportunity for other sports to use this field that are underserved now. So with that, that's my pitch. If you guys aren't biting, then...
I would like to add that the Coastal Bay Water Quality Committee has approved a letter that will come to council supporting more use of artificial turf in appropriate areas, particularly for water quality issues. Turf is the biggest user of water that we have, so there are always runoff issues, and with the conditions we just heard from our utility department about water, the more we can save water, the better. So I think that's another aspect of it to consider.
You don't have to water the turf, right?
You have to cool it down sometimes and cleanse it, but it's not near what the irrigation requirements are of now.
Right, I mean, is there documented savings on I mean, I understand it's an expensive field, certainly more than a grass field would probably cost to put in there, but could we expect some savings over the life of the field as far as, I don't know, well, obviously we're spending 5.5 months a year revitalizing the field. There must be additional costs that we're spending there that we would save.
The warranties on these fields now are at 10 years, so you're looking at $100,000 a year. I don't know that we're putting that much into Bonita Creek, but the buying of time is where Bonita Creek probably makes sense. I heard the word placeholder. If it might help the council, and they direct staff to have some conversation with the youth groups on what they think is the best alternative to really look at this for our first go at it, and get back in, say, 3 months with a report to move forward, maybe with something in the CIP that has some partnerships in it with some real financial assistance, and something that has been just taken at least its trip through park development and PB&R, we could maybe move forward knowing that something this fiscal year is going to happen and exactly when, and if the city's only in it for $650,000 or something like that, it just makes it easier, and those who are the stakeholders have had a say in it on the front end. That might help you find a spot where we're moving forward in an inclusive way. But it's whatever the council wants to do.
Councilman Webb's itching to speak here.
Yeah, I think that probably pending soil studies and designs and that type of thing, this probably is the place to put an artificial turf field. I feel that budgeting the full amount this fiscal year is probably not the way to go. I think that what we need to do is budget sufficient monies to go through the design process. I think that this is something that is important enough that we should have gotten a recommendation from the PB&R Commission as far as whether or not artificial turf fields should be used in the city. If they are, what restrictions, and they're kind of our advisor and should be giving us some information. I think that we have perhaps a lot of investigation to do before we actually go out and do a field as far as determining the types of turfs. And I know we put one in at Estancia. Would we use that? Not we, but we help participate in the cost of that. Mission Viejo has been very active in their artificial turf fields, and I think that this is the type of thing that our PB&R Commission should be doing a lot of the research for us on it. And I would like to propose, rather than budgeting the full $1 million, well, one other statement that Wes made is I think that we need to form a partnership with some of the other sports groups and try to get them to participate in a contribution. And if we were to do all of our groundwork and get a project ready to go at the beginning of next fiscal year, we might be able to give the sports group time to build up some monies to donate to us and not have to put forward the full amount. So I'd like to propose that we provide, I don't know, say $200,000 to go through that process of getting a hard design, something that would pin down the more exactly the costs, so that we're not saying, well, a field is $1 million, and I'm sure that under ideal situations that's a good price estimate. But because we have the soil conditions that we do at the place we have, I can imagine we're going to have a fairly extensive drainage system that's going to have to be installed with that, and we need to look into that type of design as a part of our overall investigation. However, I think that probably part of the $200,000 should be used to do some returfing, or maybe we budget $250,000, with $50,000 being set up for returfing so that this field can be used this fiscal year. So my suggestion and recommendation would be that we budget $200,000 for design studies and get recommendations back from the PB&R Commission on what their thoughts on the type of uses that it should be programmed and whether or not they should be there, and that additional $50,000 be provided for whatever emergency maintenance is necessary to get the field up and running as best we can for another year.
Okay, Councilman Curry, there's two proposals on the table. Do you prefer one or the other, or have a third
Well,
option?
I would support Mr. Webb's proposal, although I think he's got too much money in it. Does it cost $200,000 to design $1 million field?
Mr. Mayor, could I answer that question in a roundabout way? I think one word that I've heard in here in this discussion that really concerns me is the word immediate, because we're talking about a high priority. I've heard immediate translates into high priority. And I know one of council's priorities is providing fields for active recreation, so this falls into that. But we don't have any experience as staff with artificial turf. I think we need to do our homework. We have a site that may be a little problematic and may be requiring some compaction, or maybe even bringing some dirt in and compacting it underneath. We're going to need to look at drainage. It's in a very sensitive place. I think we can do this, but we need some time, and it's the immediacy that I'm hearing that concerns me the most. Wes isn't going to be here. He's going to be under contract. We're going to have a new recreation director. So I think we need to take all of these things into consideration. I think we can do it. I think it falls into council's priorities, but I just don't want to see at this point maybe some expectations being set that are going to be very, very difficult to meet unless it becomes the high priority of the Recreation and Senior Services Department.
Well, in light of that guidance, Mr. Mayor, what I think my suggestion would be to refer this item back to staff and ask them to do this research over the course of the next year, and in the context of next year's CIP budget, come back with a proposal, if it proves feasible for us to consider as part of the CIP, as it ought to be, frankly, given the amount of money that's going to cost, and also to use the course of this year to get feedback from the youth sports groups, but also from the neighbors who are going to be looking on this field every day when they get up, and make sure that it passes the aesthetic test as far as the neighbors are concerned.
Okay, Councilman Henn. There's 3 ideas on the table.
Right. Let's see if I can bring some sense of center here. I'm very enthusiastic about the idea of artificial turf. That explanation I had earlier about up there at Estancia High School was very impressive. I mean, that is really an impressive facility. And standing on top of that turf, you had to reach down and just kind of feel it to make sure it was artificial. And I'm assuming some solution that we're going to shoot for here involves the pelletized rubber surface that I stood on up in Estancia. I'm very enthusiastic about that for the reason of getting better use out of this field and also for the environmental benefits that it brings. But I also agree with Councilman Webb that we need to spend some time studying this, and Homer's view that we need to study it, and let's just make sure. Let's make sure it's right from the perspective of PB&R, and that the specific recommendation we're putting forth is right. But I feel like we ought to have some money in the budget to facilitate that as and when staff can work it into their priorities to come back as promptly as they can work it in within the press of everything else. And I do mean as promptly as you can work it in, because I am enthusiastic about moving forward. So I would be fine to keep a $200,000 item in here to cover whatever the costs are associated in this coming fiscal year, as soon as we can get to them, to move this idea forward. And so that staff knows that there's a strong expression of support from council, and when we get something specific that's thought through and whatnot, I don't see any reason why this can't come back to council for approval at the appropriate time, if it's 6 months from now or if it's in the next year's CIP. So that's where I'm at on it, is let's just keep $200,000 in there. Let's move ahead with this project and come back as soon as staff can work it out with a specific proposal.
Mayor Pro Tem Daigle?
Yes, I think what caught my attention is when you said that, well, many things, but when you said that we can't use this asset for half the year. So there's a piece of land that we own and we're unable to utilize it. And I know we talk a lot about, projects ahead, but I also want to make sure we don't lose sight of maximizing our current land and our current facilities. And so I think moving in the direction of having some turf, again, the water quality, water conservation benefits is a good idea. I would agree with the city manager that we need to do our homework, and there sounds like there's some work ahead of us, and I think Councilman Webb's proposal strikes a balance where we'll be able to do that work, but also I think to move forward with deliberate speed. So I would be supporting his proposal.
Well, I'll run along as the fourth and then accept Councilman Webb's compromise.
Taking me off the hot seat, huh?
Yep.
Which includes just $200,000 or $200,000
Well, yeah, this
plus
was
50 for
250.
turf, or what was?
200,000 for design, I think, as you indicated, you know, if we were to make, well, you didn't, but let me stretch it. If you were, let's say, by spring or whenever, if we were to have a design in place, we would have some more work done in terms of our community groups, perhaps at that time we could appropriate money when we know a little bit more what we're getting into.
Well, one clarification as we proceed with this, I think it's safe to say when we're talking to the leadership of the youth sports groups, we can tell them if they are a genuine partner to some level of real percentage and real dollars that the council is interested in this in the very near future.
Yes.
Something along those lines. Is that okay?
Yeah, I mean, I would
addition.
go along with what Councilman Henn said in that I don't think we need a year here to figure this out. I mean, I agree, you know, I don't want to, we need to jump through the hoops. Obviously, there's got to be some outreach, got to talk to the user groups, take it to PB&R, vet it all, but this should not be a year project. I mean, it's the field is there. We're not building a field. We're really just re-turfing or the field. And I understand that designing a new park and all that goes with that is a long, drawn-out, complicated process. But this should be a lot simpler than that, I would imagine. So hopefully we can move it along at
I
a nice
understand
pace.
that. It's an interesting dynamic because the greater the speed, the greater the support will be.
Good.
In terms of the partnerships financially with the groups. Because they do have some reserves right now that are pretty healthy, and they're looking for a
I
new
mean,
project.
honestly, it would be nice to shoot for this field being in place for, I wouldn't say this fall, but for the next fall, when it seems like that's where the big problem is, so
I
that
think
would be
that's
my
very
goal.
doable.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay,
I get it.
Councilman Webb, would you like to succinctly restate your idea in a straw vote motion?
Can I ask both Mark and Wes a question?
Sure.
When I was out there yesterday looking at it, you got a big mud puddle in the middle. Is there any chance on doing some sort of maintenance work to where we can get the field with a little bit more grass or a little bit more playable in the short term while we're waiting to get the rest of this done?
Well, if I heard correctly, you're giving me 50,000?
Well, no, that
Do
was
that,
what
I
I had
think.
proposed originally, and this end down here says 200,000,
Oh,
so.
all right. Well,
And maybe whatever additional cost could come out of the 200,000 instead of the 250.
Yeah, we obviously can take a look at that and see what we can do. That field, and you heard it all from Wes, but from a maintenance end, that field's a nightmare. I mean, there's just nothing, there's nothing we can do with it. But certainly we'll try and take the low areas and get rid of the standing water and those things.
All right, my motion then would be the 200,000 rather than the 250, but allow General Services to have some portion of that 200,000 to try to get the field as playable as possible, and that the 200,000 go towards the whatever feasibility studies are necessary, design and planning, so that we can have a shelf-ready set of plans this fiscal year.
Okay, please vote.
Motion carries.
Right now, they'll go outside and slug it out to see how that $200,000 is going to be divided. Guys, we will talk.
I'm putting my money on Morgan.
Okay, next item is the Balboa Vision Plan. Councilman Henn?
Yes, I'm going to suggest that this item be withdrawn, actually, in its entirety. It's not that I'm not interested in pursuing that. I very much am. But in thinking about it, we've got a major visioning project that's in process right now with the Newport Harbor Nautical Museum. We've got discussion going on about parking solutions that perhaps could be selected in that area sometime soon that would have real impact on how this vision plan would roll out. And I just think it's a little premature. I'd like a little more time for these other things to percolate and take shape, and then come back in with those important seed points of view available to us and do a vision plan. So I'm not at all backing away from the idea we need to do it, but I'm fine to take this money out of the budget for now, and when we're ready, come back with something more.
Any objections to Councilman Henn's withdrawal? Okay, seeing none, we'll go back up to the landscape improvements on Bristol. Councilman Webb?
Yes, I know that as you go along Bristol on both sides, you have kind of sort of like a desert between the fence and the curb, and it's not the more attractive, most attractive area. And I think that if we're going to look at, again, a phased program for doing landscaping, probably on both sides of the freeway, we need to spend a little bit more time going into the establishment of cost estimates. In the existing CIP program, there are 6 projects already that are talking about median rehabilitation, and of those 6 projects, the square foot costs are significantly higher than what we have shown here at $120,000. So I think what I would like to recommend is that we put together, again, as it fits within the priorities of the other landscaping projects for the medians, a phased program that looks at the landscaping on both sides of Bristol and takes into consideration some of the things that are out there, such as the Metropolitan Water District 36-inch line, the 42-inch Mesa Consolidated line, the Edison Power lines that occasionally have to have maintenance vehicles that drive along the roadway there, the potential for Caltrans involvement in what we do. Also, if I remember correctly, I think Caltrans may be using reclaimed water on their freeway landscaping, and I'd like to see if there's some way that we can potentially bring that into our project. I think that none of these items are such that are super high priority, and when we start working through the design details of these, that we can put something together for next year's budget that will actually do some landscaping. But so I would recommend that we reduce the $120,000 down to $40,000, which provides for the design of a phased program that can look at the problems that are out there, and probably the reason why there isn't landscaping there today, because we may find that, for instance, Edison, in having to service their poles, runs a truck through there every 30 days, and that we would have to provide some sort of paved path for them within it, which is a significant additional cost. So my recommendation is that we budget $40,000 for design and planning studies.
Okay. Mayor Pro Tem Daigle.
I've noticed, Councilman Webb, that you've pulled a number of these landscaping items, and with the idea that we do the design first and then come back with the materials and so on. It seems to me, though, as we discussed, that our practice with our budget is that we provide a reasonable estimate, and then at a later time we come back with a precise guidelines or scope, a precise dollar amount, and then the scope. So it's, our method of budgeting is a placeholder. So that was my understanding in terms of how we look at it. And in the 1st of July, when we adopt our budget, it's at that time that we estimate the full burden, so that our budget is reflective of what's probably ultimately going to get spent. Because as I understand, it will probably be more than $40,000 in design. I appreciate the approach, though, of sort of looking at it as multi-phase, and I think that's what the General Services Director had in mind, in terms of North and South Bristol. So my concern is that, our budget practice being that we budget for more along the lines of the sort of the ultimate cost. Because I know you've pulled this on the other landscape items, too.
Well, if I might ask a question, can someone explain what the $120,000 is going to do? Is it planting, both?
No, and I think one of the big differences in the cost of what Councilmember Webb was looking at as far as renovating medians, this was hydro seeding. This is a very inexpensive approach to putting something on the ground, spraying some hydro seed. So that might be the difference in some of those cost estimates that you were looking at.
Does that include irrigation?
That does.
Includes
and
irrigation.
hydro seeding, we're when we looked at it, we weren't looking at any trees and nothing that should impact any of the water lines or power lines.
So how many square feet are you going to get for $120,000?
Well, we would start on the north side, which is away from the utility lines, and you know, we haven't had more than a week or two to look at it, but we're hoping we could do that one side, northbound side of Bristol at least.
When you say hydroseeding, are you talking about grass? Are you talking about natural?
Just a ground cover, a drought-tolerant ground cover, and we have not selected what that would be yet.
What, do you have any, could you have any suggestions on what
Well,
that might
I'm
look
not an
like
ice
in other
plant
areas?
fan, but that's what's on the other side of that fence is ice plant. But
It's ice plant is out there, yeah.
right, it's on the other side of the fence. We'd have to look. There might be several options that we could take a look at. Again, we're given a couple of weeks to come up with this, so it's, you know, we haven't yet come up with the palette that we would use. But you know, the $120,000 to soil prep that one side, it does not necessarily need any grading or anything. It's a flat area, and we could soil prep it, irrigate it, and then hydroseed is relatively inexpensive.
Okay.
If I could ask you a question on Mark. Mark, once we hydroseed it and have plants there, it seems like it's a very dirty area as far as wrappers and paper and regular maintenance. And I guess one question I'd have is once you get plants in there and you get wrappers stuck against it, it's going to require a pretty steady effort in order to keep that clean and looking nice, isn't it?
Oh, it is. It is, like any major thoroughfare, and it's not an easy place to provide maintenance. You know, as far as parking there, and there's no safety curbs, and you know, it would be a tough maintenance item, but not a whole lot different than Jamboree and some of our other major streets.
Well, Jamboree is a significantly different in its actual turf. I'm a little concerned that we would rush ahead to put this down with a hydroseeded type material, and that I'd like, if we're going to do some beautification projects, I'd like to have them stand the test of priorities of other beautifications within the city. Like I mentioned earlier, we already have 6 of these in the CIP today, and as I remember back, this is one of the largest beautification CIP budgets, particularly if we add on the roughly $700,000 that's in this checklist. So that, again, I would urge the council to support a phased design project so that we have an opportunity to look at what can be done out there and come up with something that would be a little bit better than
and I certainly wouldn't disagree. Again, just being asked what the 120 was for, where that estimate came from, that's what staff looked at. That's what we were asked to do, and that's what we came up for. But I certainly realize we have a lot of other projects, landscape projects on the board.
Okay. Does anyone else support Council Member Webb's suggestion?
Actually, need my voice back. Actually, I do generally support the direction that he's espousing, and just to make sure that people know that I'm even-handed about this, I have a Balboa Boulevard item down here for 150 that I'd propose that we reduce to 100 and call design and feasibility as well, so that when we have money in the budget that is going to get us a good proposal, and we'll consider the proposal when it's ready to be considered for whatever the cost is. So I'd be happy to reduce my Balboa Boulevard from 150 to 100, and I don't know what the proper number is for Bristol, but what?
Well, let me interject something here. I mean, the proposal on Bristol is a very simple one. There's not landscape design. I mean, it's laying out an irrigation system and doing some hydroseeding. It's different from other landscaping projects. So unless we're anticipating doing something other than a simple ground cover out there, it doesn't make any sense to get into planning and design money. We just might as well go ahead and allocate the money. It's very similar to the MacArthur Boulevard medium trees. We're putting trees in an existing landscape area. We don't have to go out and redesign the medians to do that.
Okay, if you're happy with just doing that, I'm fine with that. But you know, I didn't hear what I thought was a well-formed thought about what we ought to do. If council's happy with that, then I'll support the 100, and I'll still reduce mine to 100, because I do need to have a better view.
Yours is different, I think.
Yeah,
Yeah,
well, from what you're saying, apparently it is. And so,
But I guess that is a question. Would it be better, and I'm asking Leslie because, would it be better to keep the money in, but to look at alternatives, or do you think that that is the best alternative?
I'm kind of following staff's direction here in terms of that. I've had very little exposure to how we came up with all of that, but I think what the mayor says in terms of simplicity, I'd be inclined to follow his lead on that. And it's not, the level of complexity that, we're talking about some of the median and Balboa. So, and I know on the issue of beautification, I've consistently supported it, even accelerating the project in CDM. I think it's just really important, given all of the investment that our homeowners make in their property, and I think people really appreciate beautification.
Well, and certainly given an option, we would enjoy the extra time to look at options. Again, I think Councilmember Daigle brought this up to staff a few weeks ago. And so, given that time constraint, we really don't have the luxury to look at options and different things out there. So if council's on board with that, we would like to take some extra time and see what we can do.
Yeah.
So in response to Councilwoman Gardner's question, though, do I support the placeholder? Yes. I think that's the essence of what she was asking. And, of course, the responsible way to go would be to look at the different options.
Correct.
Yeah, so that's why I want to be sure you're comfortable looking at other options, because I think that's a good idea.
And then we would come back. We would come back with a project cost and a plan on what we would do and see if that's acceptable to council.
I guess part of what I had looked at this, and I assumed that you were trying to put together a program for landscaping both sides of the freeway along Bristol. And so that my proposal for the $40,000 worth of design was to try to accomplish something that was more than a very simple installation along I'm not, okay, you're looking at, as I see it, trying to put something down for around $1, $1.50 a square foot, where some of your median remediation on other projects is $12 to $12.50 a square foot.
Correct.
And that's, to me, is extremely simple, and I didn't think you could even get irrigation in for $1 square foot. But,
again, if council wants staff to look at options and come back with the $13 square foot option, which might be native plants and different
I don't
kind of
think we
accents
want to
there.
do that.
You just talked us out of $1 million there, Don. Come on.
I realize that. That's why.
So if you want staff to look at put some money, put a placeholder in there, have staff look at the different options, and come back to council. We were asked to look at a very simple approach of covering the dirt.
Let me, on our issue of placeholders, I have a question to ask Dennis. When you put a number in the budget as an expenditure, do you have an asterisk that says spaceholder, or do you try to provide revenue on the other side of the line to fund that amount, so that when we get down to the bottom line, our budget is balanced and can pay for everything that's in there?
No, we don't provide any asterisks. It's what is our best guess, whether it's design or an actual project. We try to, with the help
So
of...
if we put $100,000 in here, you're going to find the revenue to fund that $100,000, whether it's a placeholder or not?
That's correct.
Okay. So I think we got to be careful when we talk about putting projects in the budget as placeholders, unless we actually, because if we do that on a lot of different projects, that means we're going to have money that we may not use, that's going to be using up the money that may be available to fund projects that we really have a higher priority on. And I think we've got to be very careful to how we do that process. So
Councilwoman Daigle, go ahead.
I believe the direction would be the $120,000 and then to explore the various options and come back to council.
on one side of Bristol or two sides?
I think we're talking one side this year. Would that be correct?
Can we roll that in with Mike's motion, so we don't have to go over anymore?
Okay, is there a second to her proposal?
I'll second that.
Okay, please vote.
With Councilmember Webb voting no, the motion carries.
Can we dispense with my Balboa Boulevard volunteer to reduce it from 150 to 100 and call it design and feasibility?
Councilman Webb, that was the item that you pulled.
That's fine with me.
Okay.
Okay.
No objections to that one. Next one is the grant to the Orange County Film Commission. Councilmember Gardner.
Can someone explain it to me? I'm not really aware of the Film Commission. I guess they try to bring films into Orange County someplace, but we have somebody who works on bringing film into Newport Beach.
There's an agency called the Orange County Film Commission, and it has been in existence for a number of years. The Board of Supervisors used to fund it 100%. That ceased to happen, I think, about 5 years ago. Mayor Selich gave me the information material that was supplied in order to justify the request and asked me to look at it, and I did. And this isn't the first time that a request has come to the city. It's probably the fourth time in my recollection, and at no time has the city contributed money towards the Film Commission. Its total budget is $150,000, which is woefully inadequate to make any kind of impact, especially given the travel budget, which is substantial, I think, in that for that agency. And the City of Newport Beach has a very active filming permit process. We do a lot of still photography, we do a lot of video, commercial photography, and I think, you know, it's where the commission needs us a lot more than we need them.
I would move that we remove this.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Vote.
With Councilmember Rosansky absent and Councilmember Daigle voting no, the motion carries.
I won yes.
Oh,
That'd be the green button.
Thank you.
okay, with Councilmember Rosansky.
She thought no was yes.
absent, the motion carries. Okay.
Okay, then the next item that we have is an addition, the $24,000 for Newport Naturalists and Friends. Councilwoman Daigle?
This would be the naturalists are active in cataloging the species of the Back Bay to be used as part of our planning efforts, and this request from the naturalist would be to continue that update. So.
I would move that we add this.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Please vote.
Motion carries.
Okay, we've voted on the overall checklist. We've voted on each item that was pulled from the checklist or added, so now a motion would be in order to approve the 2008-2009 budget.
So moved.
Second.
And I would comment with that motion, if it's of any comfort to Councilmember Webb, that in looking at these materials, I see a reduction in our expense budget of $607,000 in general services, and I see an increase in our revenue budget of $1,055,000. And with the reductions that we just approved on the checklist items, I think we're okay from a budget standpoint. Would you not agree, Dennis?
I would.
Okay, well, I'd like to congratulate the staff for a job well done on preparing the budget this year and providing us with all the information and simplifying a lot of complex issues for us. It's difficult to go through all these documents and all these numbers, and after a while you start going starry-eyed, at least I do. So appreciate all the hard work you put into it. Call for the question.
The motion carries.
Safe till next year. Okay, next item on our agenda is item number 28. This is appointments to boards and commissions. Okay, we are handing out ballots for boards and commission. Please vote and pass them on to the city clerk.
for Board of Library Trustees, Councilmember Webb voted for Lynn Kretschley. Councilmember Henn voted for Lynn Kretschley. Councilmember Curry voted for Lynn Kretschley. Councilmember Gardner voted for Lynn Kretschley. Oh, I'm sorry, Nancy Thompson. My apologies. Councilmember Rosansky voted for Lynn Kretschley. Mayor Pro Tem Daigle voted for Lynn Kretschley. Mayor Selich voted for Lynn Kretschley. Lynn Kretschley received 6 votes. Nancy Thompson received 1 vote. For the City Arts Commission, Councilmember Webb voted for Robert Smith and Carol Starcevich. Councilmember Henn voted for Robert Smith and Carol Starcevich. Councilmember Curry voted for Rita Goldberg and Carol Starcevich. Councilmember Gardner voted for Rita Goldberg and Carol Starcevich, and Robert Smith. So that would be Rita Goldberg and Robert Smith for Councilmember Gardner. Councilmember Rosansky voted for Rita Goldberg and Carol Starcevich. Mayor Pro Tem Daigle voted for Rita Goldberg and Robert Smith. Mayor Selich voted for Rita Goldberg and Robert Smith. Rita Goldberg received 5 votes. Robert Smith received 5 votes. Carol Starcevich received 5 votes, and that's not correct. 4 votes.
Rita Goldberg and Robert
Robert
Smith
Smith.
were appointed to the Arts Commission.
Correct. We'll move on to the Civil Service Board. Councilmember Henn voted for Mickey Dunlap and Clint Hughes. Councilmember Henn Okay, for Civil Service Board? Okay. Councilmember Webb did vote for Mickey Dunlap and Clint Hughes. Councilmember Henn voted for Deborah Allen and Mickey Dunlap. Councilmember Curry voted for Deborah Allen and Mickey Dunlap. Councilmember Gardner voted for Debbie Allen and Mickey Dunlap. Councilmember Rosansky voted for Deborah Allen and Mickey Dunlap. Mayor Pro Tem Daigle voted for Deborah Allen and Mickey Dunlap. And Mayor Selich voted for Deborah Allen and Mickey Dunlap. Deborah Allen received 6 votes, Mickey Dunlap received 7 votes, and Clint Hughes received 1 vote. So the 2 new Civil Service Board members are Deborah Allen and Mickey Dunlap. On to the Harbor Commission, where there is 1 vacancy. Councilmember Webb voted for Marshall Duffield. Councilmember Henn voted for Marshall Duffield. Councilmember Curry voted for Marshall Duffield. Councilmember Gardner voted for Marshall Duffield. Councilmember Rosansky voted for Marshall Duffield. Mayor Pro Tem Daigle voted for Marshall Duffield. And Mayor Selich voted for Marshall Duffield, and that's 7 votes for Mr. Duffield. Now for the Parks, Beaches, and Recreation, there is one vacancy. Councilmember Webb voted for Tom Anderson. Councilmember Henn voted for Tom Anderson. Councilmember Curry voted for Kathy Hamilton. Councilmember Gardner voted for Kathy Hamilton. Councilmember Rosansky voted for Kathy Hamilton. Mayor Pro Tem Daigle voted for Kathy Hamilton. Mayor Selich voted for Kathy Hamilton. Tom Anderson received 2 votes. Kathy Hamilton received 5 votes. Kathy Hamilton is the new PB&R commissioner. For the Planning Commission, there are 2 vacancies. Councilmember Webb voted for Robert Hawkins and Charles Unsworth. Councilmember Henn voted for Robert Hawkins and Charles Unsworth. Councilmember Curry voted for Drew Emmel and Robert Hawkins. Councilmember Gardner voted for Drew Emmel and Robert Hawkins. Councilmember Rosansky voted for Robert Hawkins and Charles Unsworth. Councilmember Daigle voted for Robert Hawkins and Charles Unsworth. And Mayor Selich voted for Drew Emmel and Robert Hawkins. Drew Emmel received 3 votes, Robert Hawkins received 7 votes, and Charles Unsworth received 4 votes. So the new, Robert Hawkins is reappointed, and Charles Unsworth is a new planning commissioner. Thank you.
Okay. Well, congratulations to all those that got appointed to these boards and commissions, and our thanks to those that submitted both to the preliminary rounds as well as to this final vote this evening. We appreciate everyone's interest in serving the city on these boards and commissions.
Mr. Mayor, may I make one more comment, just very briefly?
Yes, sir.
I do want to say I was impressed once again with the quantity and quality of applicants for these positions throughout every single opening. And anyone that was not voted in shouldn't take that as a vote of no confidence. It was a tough decision, and there was a lot of quality to choose from. And so I encourage all those that did apply and didn't quite make it to stay in the hunt. Thanks.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilman Webb.
I too would agree with, and thank you everybody for volunteering. I think that one of the things the council needs to look at trying to do is seeing if, particularly on the Planning Commission and PB&R commissions, if we can look at the makeup and try to encourage more people on in each of the districts to apply, because right at the present time, the Planning Commission, I think, now has 2 people on the westerly side of the bay and 5 people on the easterly side. And I think that one of the reasons why we are all elected from a district is to try to get a geographic distribution throughout the community. So I hope that we can go out and each one of us, when these vacancies occur, make sure that our districts are represented on these boards so that we can get a more uniform distribution throughout the city of memberships.
Councilman Curry.
Just briefly to add to, I thought this was an outstanding group of candidates for all of these positions. We have some great public servants in the city who are ready to serve, and it's unfortunate we were not able to find positions for all of them who applied, because there truly were some very highly qualified and terrific people who came through the process this year.
Okay, thank you. Okay, the next item on the agenda is item number 29. This is approval of a 10-year agreement with Clean Energy, Inc. for installation and operation of a CNG fueling station.
Thank you, Mayor, Council members. Mark Harmon, Director of General Services. Approximately 8 years ago, AQMD adopted several fleet rules that require the city to purchase alternative fuel vehicles when replacing our heavy equipment. We currently have approximately 60 city vehicles that are impacted by the AQMD rules, including refuse collection trucks, street sweepers, beach and park maintenance equipment, and utility and street repair trucks. The city has deferred replacement of many of these vehicles pending the construction of a natural gas fueling facility. Several months ago, Clean Energy, a private company located in Seal Beach, approached the city with a proposal to construct a compressed natural gas fueling station at the city yard. Clean Energy is the owner and operator of the largest network of CNG stations in North America, dispensing over 180,000 gallons of CNG every day. The company has determined that there is a significant market for CNG fuel in this area, with airport taxis, shuttle buses, and other private fleets currently operating on CNG fuel in and around the Newport Beach area. For the past several weeks, staff has met with representatives from Clean Energy to develop the agreement that is included with your packet tonight. This public-private partnership will result in several significant benefits from the city, including the following key items. Project funding. Clean Energy will design, permit, construct, operate, maintain, and fully fund a public access CNG station at the city's maintenance yard. This will allow for the cost-effective and efficient fueling of city vehicles as we move towards a clean air fleet. Operations. Clean Energy will manage all billing and point-of-sale transactions for fuel delivered to non-city vehicles. The company will also provide fuel maintenance of the fueling station, or full maintenance of the fueling station, and fully fund any utility costs and repairs associated with the facility. Fees paid to the city. Clean Energy will pay a royalty fee to the city in the amount of 5 cents per gallon of CNG sold to non-city vehicles. And finally, the city shall receive a preferential fuel price for any fuel delivered from the facility to a city vehicle. The city's preferential fuel price will never exceed the posted retail price less 10 cents per gallon. As an example of how this arrangement will benefit the city fleet, on June 3rd, we paid $4.42 per gallon for a load of diesel fuel to the city yard. Based on the preferential fuel price from Clean Energy, our cost for natural gas fuel this month would have been $2.43 per gallon. On March 12th, the Finance Committee received a presentation from Clean Energy representatives and city staff regarding the installation of a CNG fueling station. The committee was supportive of the project and directed staff to bring an agreement forward for your consideration tonight. Mr. Chad Lindholm from Clean Energy is here representing the company, and both he and I would be happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Okay, any questions, Mr. Harmon? Councilman Rosansky?
I understand we'll be saving money with the CNG, which is great, obviously, but we would save that money whether we put our own station in it or they're putting it in, I mean, using that type of fuel. So was any studies done or analysis done as to, I guess, additional cost savings as far as them providing it, as opposed to us building our own and making our own contract with the gas company or whatever?
Yeah, the significant savings, initial savings, of course, is building the facility.
Right.
A facility this size will cost between $800,000 and $1 million to construct. And then there's the advantages of being able to get grants because it is a public access station. And when you make it a public access station, people will come and use credit cards or fuel cards issued by, in this case, Clean Energy. If we were running it, obviously, we would have to have someone doing the point-of-sale transactions, the collections, the billing, and all of those things. Then
Well, I mean, we might not open it up to the public. I mean, we might just keep it as our own city yard.
You could. However, AQMD is more likely to offer grants for equipment and grants for station maintenance and some other things based on it being a public access station.
But, so CNG is going to be obtaining these grants to offset the cost of constructing the station?
They will work with the city to obtain grants, correct. We already have one for the station. I believe we have a $250,000 grant presently for the station.
Which we wouldn't be eligible for if we were just putting in our own station for our own vehicles?
Oh, you can still apply. Some grants through AQMD will specify that it's for public access station. AQMD is trying to make these grants available so places like the city, like City of Irvine's doing, they open them up to public use.
Okay.
And then the third thing, is maintenance of the station. Maintenance of these stations can be very costly, and under this agreement, Clean Energy assumes all of that expense.
But there was no direct analysis of what it would cost us versus what it's going to cost them?
No, sir.
Thank you.
Other questions? Okay. Anybody from the public wish to address the council on this? Okay, seeing no one, I'll bring it back to council for motion.
Second.
Okay, please vote.
Motion carries.
Okay, next item on the agenda is the sales tax sharing agreement with Newport European Motor Cars Limited of Newport Beach.
Lee DeSantis is going to provide the staff report on this one.
Good evening. Newport European Motor Cars is seeking a sales tax sharing agreement with the city. They will be purchasing a site up on Campus Drive and moving their dealership there. They need the additional space that that new location will provide in order to combine the Lotus dealership, which they've begun to move over from Costa Mesa, and the expansion of Rolls-Royce. Both Rolls-Royce and Lotus will be bringing out new models in the 2009 and 2010 model year, and Rolls has insisted that they move to a facility that they feel is more in keeping with their product and will provide them with ample showroom and inventory space. They've been looking for some time to find a location, and this is the first opportunity that they've had to purchase one within the city of Newport Beach. Because this will be an expansion and some additional models, we felt it was a good opportunity to become involved. The deal that we're proposing would have European Motor Cars acquire the site and develop the Rolls-Royce and Lotus dealership within specified timeframes. They will agree to continue to operate Rolls-Royce and Lotus dealerships on the site and designate the site as the point of sale for all the sales tax transactions, and will use their best efforts to designate the site as the site is for all leasing transactions. And they'll provide the city with copies of their reports to the State Board of Equalization. The city, we're proposing that the city would pay European Motor Cars 50% of the incremental increase over a base year of local sales tax generated at the site on an annual basis. I'm sorry, the staff report says quarterly, but as we looked at it, the figures were such that we felt it made more sense for all parties to make that an annual payment rather than quarterly, and that it would not, these would occur for a period not to exceed 10 years, and we could make the source of payments from any kind of funding. Also, in the staff report, when we talk about acquisition approval costs and average costs of sales over those costs, those figures are calculated based on a constant base year. Unfortunately, as we were rushing at the last minute to prepare the covenant, within the covenant that you have in your book, it talks about using a CPI index to increase the base year. The initial purchase prices of Rolls-Royce and Lotus are so high, those cars generally don't escalate at the same rate as the CPI, and generally sort of remain flat for up to about 5 years at a time. And so we're proposing that the base year not escalate, but remain constant throughout the life of the agreement. If we enter into an agreement with them, we would be bringing down their average cost of occupancy to about 1.87, and their projected profit costs over sales of 1.3. This is in keeping with what we're talking about. In terms of dollar amounts, the review of their projections suggests that there'll be $712,091 cumulative new incremental tax dollars, which we would be splitting 50-50, though the city will be receiving more than just half, as we will be getting the base year. Of most interest to us are the non-monetary benefits of their proposed expansion. One, they'll be implementing the new general plan land use for the campus tract. 2, there'll be a catalyst for additional economic development in that area. 3, it puts Mercedes-Benz, Lexus, Rolls-Royce, and Lotus all within a 2-mile radius, really focusing Newport Beach as the place to come to purchase a luxury car. 4th, it keeps Rolls-Royce and Lotus in the city of Newport Beach because it meets the demands that Rolls-Royce is making in terms of showroom and inventory storage. And lastly, the possibility exists in this new location that they could add additional lines or find another car to sell or expand their used cars. In the past, the city has been involved in providing assistance to Fletcher Jones and to Newport Lexus. There is a resolution in place establishing city policy on aiding auto dealerships. This transaction falls within the terms of that particular policy, and staff believes that our experience both with the Fletcher Jones deal and the Lexus deal suggests that working with our luxury car dealers to assist them in their expansion and continuation in Newport Beach has been in the best interests of the city. Because of our rush in putting this together, as you move the recommendation, I would need to ask that you include in your recommendation that the covenant be amended to delete the base sales tax annual adjustment in section 4.1.1A to take care of the discrepancy between those two documents. The resolution, the recommendation as stand finally calls for the approval of the contract as deformed by the city attorney. There are a couple of other minor blanks. We don't have the acreage of the site, and we don't have a final number yet on leasing, but those we expect to complete within the next couple of days. Any questions?
Councilman Webb.
A question on Lexus and Mercedes. Maybe I'm remembering wrong, but when we gave them a sales tax rebate, I think it was an estimated rebate over a period of time. Was it 10 years or whatever it was? But if they and we had an estimated maximum amount. If they reached that amount before the 10 years, then the agreement went away. Am I remembering that right or wrong?
I think that was correct for Lexus. It was not the case for Fletcher Jones because that was not a sales tax assistance. That was assistance with the site itself. So the only other example we have is Lexus. And we decided not to put that kind of a cap on this one because the total number of dollars we're talking about are so much fewer that we didn't think that that was a necessary limit in this case.
The maximum we anticipate them receiving over the 10 years is about $320,000 in today's dollars.
What happens if they're overly successful and they sell 4 times as many and that figures $1 million?
Then they do much better than anticipated, but so do we, since we still got the existing base year sales tax and 50% of whatever they produce. If they suddenly skyrocketed into those kinds of figures, I think we'd be thrilled.
I'd be more thrilled if we got 100% of the sales tax.
That can be, a cap can be added in if that's what the council wants.
I don't know. I'd like to, let's say, if they reach that, let's say $400,000 cap before the 10-year period, that the agreement is terminated. I don't know if I have the support for that.
Well, I'll move the staff recommendation and the appropriate amended language that we need to add to the motion for purposes of discussion. I would be hesitant to sort of try and renegotiate the agreement from the DS. We've gotten in difficulty before doing that. I think this has gone through the EDC committee, and I, for one, am comfortable with the provisions that are in the current agreement as proposed.
I'm not suggesting you negotiate, but European Motor Cars is here tonight. They are represented if you have any specific questions for them.
Councilman Henn.
I'll second Councilman Curry's motion and ask a question. It may be getting late, but I didn't see anything in here where it indicates that each council member will be able to select a car to drive. Did we miss that, too?
Every dealer will allow test drives.
In there, they'll let you select, but whether they let you drive it is negotiable.
Around the parking lot, maybe. Now, was this actually reviewed by the Economic Development Committee?
Yes, it was,
No, it
not the
was-
committee as a whole, but to the executive committee it was presented.
Well, not really.
Staff spoke to the three council
The
members.
three council
who
members
are
who
on
make up
EDC.
the executive committee of EDC discussed it, yes.
Okay. Okay, I just have another question on it. You know, in the staff report, it says the current site on Coast Highway is not large enough to meet the Rolls-Royce dealership standards for the new models, and that's an awfully big building there, and I drive by the Brabus facility, and it doesn't look much bigger, so what's the difference between the two sites?
I think it's the area outside of the building, but I think that probably David Murphy from the dealership would be better to answer that.
Okay.
Hello, good evening, Honourable Council and staff. The dealership on Coast Highway is about 10,000 square feet on the ground, about 6,750 of display area. Brabus is 29,000 square feet on land and 14,000 square feet of building, so it's substantially bigger.
Okay, and what, do you need it for what, more outside storage, is that what it is, or service, both?
Both. Rolls-Royce are requiring an exclusive area, and so is Lotus. We think we have a little bit of extra area that we could possibly bring in another specialty manufacturer, that hopefully at a later time. This property allows us to have a little expansion, and certainly allows us to have more outside display and inside display. We're not going to be doing any service there, just sales.
And what's going to happen to the existing facility? Do you have any idea what's going to happen there?
I believe it's leased already. We were on a sublease that we've had now for 3.5 years. It'll be 4 years in January when we're going to do a remodel sometime this year and move out of Coast Highway onto campus in December timeline.
Okay, any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to take a note to thank the staff. They worked very hard, very fast. I met with Homer and Sharon about 5 or 6 years ago, and Lee got involved. I want to thank them for their efficient work and expediency. They really did a good job. Appreciate it.
5 years to put this together?
Yeah, that didn't come out the way I think you meant it.
Sounds like a plan check process.
Not for this building. It's been a long time finding a building, believe me. Thank you.
You better hurry up, we just raised your fees.
Okay. Anyone else wish to address the council on this issue? Okay, seeing no one, I'll close it. If there's no further discussion, please vote.
Motion carries.
Okay, we're getting closer. Agenda item 31, approval of job description, recruitment plan, and timeline for city clerk recruitment. Councilman Henn?
Yes. The only suggestion, first off, this process and the form of this was done quite purposely in a very consistent way with the committee that was doing that is charged with the city attorney search. So you see a lot of similarities here. We did make a recommendation, a preliminary recommendation of $11,500 a month for the salary compensation level to be included in the recruitment materials. And it looks like that recommendation was preliminary because it was not based upon a careful analysis of total compensation costs. And so we do now have some more data. The committee will be looking at that issue, and it looks like we're in the ballpark with 11.5, but we just want to allow a little more time for the committee to have a look at the total comp data. And if there is a recommended change to that 11.5, we'll come back to council at the next council meeting to make that recommendation for council's approval. But otherwise, we are hopeful that council will approve the remainder of the report. There is some question about the timeline and whether or not that second meeting in August will be workable for approval of the offer. And I believe we've got flexibility here in the timeline to make adjustments if that becomes unfeasible for some reason. So with that, I'll leave it to others. Barbara, did you want to make any particular comments at this point?
Just that one of the recommendations is that the Human Resources Department coordinate the recruitment with the ad hoc committee, and we have met, and I think the committee did an excellent job of putting together the job description. They really did make some good changes to that. The job description had not been updated for a lot of years, so I think it's really good. And what we're asking for tonight is to get approval to go ahead so that we can open the recruitment. I know opening the recruitment, I think we wanted to do the month of July. It might be a little difficult not having the exact salary, but maybe we could put some wording, approximate salary. And what we're looking at is just a top salary. And and an example of another city is Anaheim. Their top salary right now is $13,500, but they just hired someone in at $9,600, a new person. So it's not like that is the salary we'll pay. It could be anything up to that.
It would be my intention to get with the other committee members just in the next few days and have a look at that salary number, and if it doesn't change, we're good to go, I presume, with the rest of council here. So if it does change, we'll have a little bit of a delay.
And if we get your input on the job description, I know we added the degree, the bachelor's degree, and the 7 years of experience. We added the municipal city clerk's certificate. Those are the things that we would need to get approval for tonight if we want to go through with the recruitment on the first, because we need to do the job flyer, and the job flyer we take from that. So, and then the committee would approve the job flyer based on your comments and your approval.
I guess I would only add one other comment. We're talking about a search and all of this. We are very glad to consider internal as well as external candidates in this search, and they will all be equally considered as it relates to the qualifications that we put together.
Absolutely, and one of the things with the time frame is that if an inside candidate is selected or an outside candidate selected, if an inside candidate, they don't have to give notice, but we have to get someone to fill behind that person. If it's an outside person, sometimes they have to give 30 days, 45 days notice. So that's the reason for the hurry-up time frame.
Barbara, I had a question for you.
Okay.
It says that the recruitment is open for 3 weeks, and given that there's a gap of a couple months between selection and kind of coming on board, in terms of a 3-week recruitment opening, is that sort of standard 3 weeks? Compared to the city attorney one, it's quite a bit less time.
It depends on where you're recruiting from and where we're advertising. We're going to just do a big blast right away, sending it to all the city clerk's offices, putting it on listserv. Sometimes if you advertise in Western City, which we're not recommending for this because of the time, that sometimes you would have it open up to a month. Maybe 5 weeks would be the most, but usually people that are going to apply within 3 weeks will apply. So we felt as though that was adequate time.
Okay. And then my other question seemed to be different from the State Attorney Committee in that the process there is that the committee would recommend to the full council a list of candidates, and the full council would say, okay, that works, or we want to add one, or however that is, and then the full council would interview that complete list. It seems as if the process here would be that the committee select the candidates for interview and then do one round of interview before the full council would see any candidates, which would then be kind of a subset of the initial people that applied, the initial applicants.
Right. When you go with an outside recruiter for the city attorney, that person will also screen the candidates before the full council gets them also, and we'll meet with you and go over. I don't know whether you're going to do it with the subcommittee or whether you're going to do it with the full council. But with this, basically what will happen is the applications will come into the Human Resources Department. I will screen them for minimum qualifications to make sure that they meet the minimum qualifications. We do get people that apply that aren't qualified, and so then we would put together a book for the committee. It could be for the whole council. I think the committee decided they could review those, but I think that's something that the council can discuss and determine, say, the top 5 candidates, top 6, the top 2, however many, and then those would be the ones that the full council would that's what's proposed here, but it certainly could be however the council wants to do it.
From my perspective, it's fine if you want to expand the interview list. I was just thinking in terms of efficiency of the process for the rest of the council, that's all. So,
And then you would need to decide, do you want to get together and do it? Or, I could send out the books to the whole council, and you guys could send me back who you think. I would give you a screening criteria matrix, and, if that's the way you want to do it, we could do that without having to extend the time too much, so.
Okay. Any other questions of Barbara?
I'm not
Councilor
Barbara, but I have a question. It's my understanding that we may consider canceling the second meeting in August, and if that's the case, on your schedule, you show that the full council is going to do an interview about 3 days before that council meeting, and I would suggest that we either move that full council interview of final candidates either 1 week later or 1 week earlier so that we can take advantage of having a canceled council meeting.
yeah, that's what I was referring to earlier,
right?
Don,
Yeah,
was
that's
that we would be flexible on that date as we would need to be. And
Okay, I thought you were talking about the council meeting itself.
yeah, and so I'm thinking that it'll more likely wind up early in September for that date. But
Because the
we hadn't
next,
decided anything about the council meeting in August.
I understand.
and actually, the 23rd, a Saturday was selected because that's what you had on yours to meet on Saturday, so I don't know how important that is. But the 30th, the next Saturday, is the Memorial Weekend, so that's probably a bad weekend for the candidates to
I thought we
come.
had decided we weren't going to go on a weekend, or the,
I don't, might finalize the schedule. I think we talked about not doing it on a Saturday, but we
Right.
certain,
that it was going to be easier if we did it during the week.
that would be easier for me and probably the candidates also, and if you guys feel that way, we just need to pick a date. Yeah, it could be in the evening, it could be whenever the council.
Councilor Webb?
Actually, I think I would go ahead and support the recommendations that are here. And I would like to ask the council's opinion of going ahead and improving the salary line and giving the committee latitude on adjusting that without having to come back to the council, rather than so that we can speed the process up even a little bit more and help Barbara out, because I think we can trust you not to increase it to $30,000 a month or something like that.
Okay, is that a motion?
Yes, so moved.
Okay, second to that, discussion?
The only suggestion I'd have, might be too late, would be if the full council could also make a recommendation if there's any applicants we wanted you to interview.
Yeah, I think we should give the full list of qualified candidates to council with supporting materials, and anybody that wants to add a person to the recommendation for interview, fine.
That'd work great.
Does that work?
Sure.
Okay.
Okay. Open this for public comment. And close it, bring it back for a vote.
Motion carries.
Okay, the next item is item S32, determination of the city attorney recruitment process. Councilman Webb?
Yes. We have used essentially the same format that we just approved on the other one. We've broken it down into exhibits. We're asking the council to approve the hiring of a recruiting consultant and start the process by mailing out an RFP tomorrow. There's a list of proposed candidates to receive that list. If the council members have any additions to the list, I would suggest that they give them to Barbara, let her add them to the list. Or if people request to be added to the list later on, that be done also. In the RFP, under the item 1, let me back up. In the calendar, we indicate that the recruiter would interview individual council members to define expectations and desired working relationships. The RFP doesn't specifically say that's going to occur, so I would suggest that in item number 1 on the RFP, that where we have the first line, it says review documents provided by the city and interview city council members to gain familiarity with the including major issues and challenges. So that way, the consultant knows up front in the RFP that he's going to be interviewing the council and talking to us, trying to get our idea of what we feel we want to see in a candidate. And other than that, the other thing is that we're not recommending that you approve the job description tonight. We're going to give you 2 weeks and bring it back to the next council meeting to see if you have any changes. That is, unless everybody wants to approve it tonight. But we originally set this up to where you could review it and bring it back to the next council meeting. It doesn't affect our schedule that much. And there's also a typo on Exhibit C where it says July 21st we approved the council hiring the recruitment firm, and that actually is the 22nd of July. Yes, is that meeting. So that should be changed from 21 to 22. Any questions?
Councilman Henn.
Just a couple of suggestions. In the job description, I think you were just asking for input for tonight, is that right? In the job description, I would include a section on essential attributes, similar to what we had in the city clerk description. I think that was well received by both Lavon, actually, when she looked at it, as well as Barbara, and so you might want to consider that. And then on the timeline, a couple of suggestions that perhaps could speed it up a little bit. With regard to you've got the date down here from the 10th to the 17th of November, final interviews, full council closed session. I was thinking you might want to consider having the council meet following the last interview and see if they can't conclude on who they would like to make the offer to right then, because it's always nicer when everything is right fresh in your mind. You've just finished the interviews and so forth. And that could cut a week out of the timeline. And then what you would do is authorize the recruiter to go ahead and make the offer pending receipt of satisfactory reference checks. So it doesn't have to come back. It can just move forward if the reference checks are okay. And so you might be able to pick up a week or more, maybe 2, if you made those changes. So just food for thought for you as you're thinking about finalizing this.
Okay. Any other comments?
Oh, I'm sorry. I did have one other suggestion. When you're looking at the salary, if I'm presuming you'll be looking at a total comp view of the world as opposed to just salary, I think that's a really good thing to do. And so I would suggest that as well.
We'll be asking the recruiting consultant to make recommendations before we come back to the council on that. So that,
okay.
If they add the essential attribute sections, do you feel that it's necessary for the job description to come back? Do you want to see it again?
I think you need to. Do you need to come back anyway?
Not if we approve it tonight. We did not know whether or not the council would be satisfied with this job description and want more time to think about it. If you don't want more time to think about it, and we add the attributes,
I'm happy for the committee. If you think it's a good suggestion, I'm happy if the committee wants to.
I have no problems with it.
That's fine.
But Barbara, you're going to have to do that.
I'm going to have to do that?
Yes.
Okay.
You have to figure out what he said.
Oh, he wrote some really good.
Okay. Any other comments or questions? Anybody from the public want to speak on this? Okay, bring it back for motion.
I move the recommendations as amended in our discussions.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Okay, please vote.
Motion carries.
We're almost there. Okay, item S33, selection of 5 finalists for City Hall and Park Design Competition.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and council members. As your staff report shows, your design committee made up of 5 people, 4 architects, 1 landscape architect, and governed by Larry blank, Larry Tucker, we've met so many times, I'm forgetting his name, completed their work, at least with this initial phase. They looked at 51 different firm submittals, and they submitted 5 for your consideration. If you direct the city manager to go forward with these 5, we would send them letters and engage them in a contract to do the conceptual plan work for the City Hall and Park. And those 5 firms are Bolin, Sawinski, Jackson, Gonzalez, Goodale, Johnson, Fain, LPA, and Rossetti Architects.
Where are they from? Are they all local, or?
They're all fairly local. Most of them have a national presence, though. So it generally would be convened by some cases, their LA office. I think we have one San Francisco firm in there. That's all I have to say.
That's it. Okay, any questions of Dave? Councilman Rosansky?
No questions. I just move that we adopt the list and thank the design committee for their hard work so far to date. I know they'll be working on this again sometime in September, I think, when these submissions come back from the firms that we've selected. I think we should just move forward.
Second. With a comment to thank Chairman Tucker of this committee and our principal staff support, Dave Kipp, along with the committee itself, for what I think was a fabulously well-done process.
Yeah, absolutely. We stayed on schedule. I mean, this makes my heart happy.
And tell LPA not to come with a rehash of that last design.
Okay, anybody from
We're not paying $50,000 for a retread. We want our money back, that's right.
Jan Bannister, Newport Heights. I attended most of the committee meetings. I missed the last one, but I'd also like to compliment the committee for the hard work that they did, and also for some of the comments that were made during the committee meetings, like the comments made by Chair Rush Hill, when he said that some of the people applying did not seem to realize that there is a park here as well as a building. So some of the architects were concentrating more on the park, more on the building of the City Hall rather than the park, that the City Hall is supposed to be located in the park. So I'd like the architects to keep that in mind, that they're not just designing a building, but they're designing a building and a park, and both of these have to be world-class. But otherwise, I think they did a great job. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Seeing none, I'll close it, bring it back for vote.
Motion to accept staff's recommendation?
Okay, I thought we already had that motion.
Oh, do we? I'm
Yeah.
sorry. Oh, I guess I seconded it, didn't I?
No, you made the
Did I make the motion? I'm tired. It's 10 to 11. Can I make it again? Please?
I'll second it again.
Thank you.
Motion carries.
Okay, Madam Clerk?
Motion for reconsideration. Excuse me. The motion for reconsideration, to reconsider the vote on any action taken by the City Council at either this meeting or the previous meeting may be made only by one of the council members who voted with the prevailing side.
Okay, any motions for reconsideration? Okay. Seeing none, I'd like to adjourn the meeting tonight in the memory of Newport Beach firefighter Kevin Pryor. I think it's more difficult to do one of these when it's one of your own employees, particularly with the firefighters, because they're such a close group of people. Kevin passed away Tuesday, June 17th, due to a sudden non-traumatic brain hemorrhage. He was a young man, 31 years old. Began his career with the Newport Beach Fire Department in 2005 and served as a dedicated firefighter for the department. Prior to coming to Newport Beach, Kevin has served as a firefighter with the California Fire in Riverside County and the Pismo Beach Fire Department. He was known for his great sense of humor and hilarious impressions of fellow coworkers and celebrities. He was intelligent. He was a history buff. He also loved the outdoors and had recently climbed Mount Whitney for the second time this year. He was a resident of Irvine. He's survived by his mother, Margaret, father, Mark, and brother, Eric. Memorial services were held for Kevin today, and our condolences go out to his family, and it really is a sad day for us to lose one of our own like this. With that, we're adjourned.